Hello everyone, and welcome to Fleet's Round Rambling 68, after the interesting diversion that was last week's ramblings. I hope you're all ready for a return to normalcy. Oh, who? Hope someone's trying to ring me again. Nope, not yet. I have to make sure I keep track on what's going on. But yes, hello everyone, and welcome to. I already said that bit. Sorry, Fleet.exe not quite working. You'll have to give me a minute. Where are we? Come on, Fleet, use your brain. You'll have to forgive me. Things are not... It's a little bit... I'm a little bit off kilter today, but everything will be alright in a minute. Just give me a second. Oh, whoops. I forgot to add the link. You know, it helps if I add the link. It helps if I actually post the links and stuff to the various platforms. Right. And here we go. And then... And here we go. Excellent, fantastic, marvellous. Everything is all sorted. So, after a brief break, we're on again. Hello, John Shear. What happened? Oh, well, nothing's happened. I'm here. Will PC be able to handle this? Well, it's always handled ramblings fine so far. No problems at all. Ramblings is the one thing it has zero problems with. Hello. Hello, everybody. All good stuff. No, there are a pair of questions from Patreon that have to be answered first. Timu Locker asks, is there a ship for every nation that existed but's not in the game? It can be any tier ship. I mean, yeah. Easily, actually. That's really that's really easy to answer. Any of the various fleet auxiliaries.
What?
Yeah.
Huh?
Which game are we talking about?
World of Warships.
Yeah. And that's never going to happen.
Hey, that doesn't matter. That's...
well...
No, it says... No, it says, is there a ship for every nation that existed but it's not in the game? Can be any tier ship. Yes. Fleet auxiliaries.
No, that doesn't work because they can't be a tier ship.
He didn't say anything about them being tiered ships. It just said, is there a ship
just said
for every nation?
They can be any tier.
Yeah, but fleet auxiliaries would probably be
Which
tier 1.
means it has to be a part of the game functionally.
No, that's not what it says.
Yes.
No.
If it has a tier, it has to be
a ship that you can play.
Tier 1, keep in mind, is kept to sloops and corvettes, primarily, sloops and gunboats.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that auxiliaries. That doesn't mean that auxiliaries don't count.
Auxiliary tier 1.
No, Royal Auxiliary ships don't count because that's not what the game's about.
Yeah, but it didn't say.
And they've been actively refused.
It didn't say ships that could be potentially in game. It said ships that existed but aren't in the game. The question was worded like that. It wasn't ships that could be in the game. At that
point, Fleet, you could have the ships that go to Dunkirk and have like 1762mm machine gun.
I'm going off the question as written. I can't do anything else but go off the question as written.
Timu, right, so was this by Timu, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was they asking explain? And huh?
I am explaining because it's a ship that's not in the game that could be in the game, theoretically.
How could it be in the game?
Well, to be fair, it's not...
No, he's asking you to explain.
Well, you could have them as
He's
like,
asking to explain,
you can have
chat,
them as a
so.
branch off tier 1, like armed merchant cruisers and stuff. It's like tier 2s. Like they could be really stealthy, or they could be disguised as other ships. Sort of like submarines, but different.
But that's not a tier 1. They actually...
Or they could be premiums.
Functionally, you can add them. They're not going to be good, but
Like
you
merchant
can
raiders.
functionally add them.
Merchant
I don't
raiders
think
are
you
armed
could even
merchant
actually add
cruisers
them.
as premiums.
Merchant raiders may, but
or armed
no,
merchant
even then
cruisers.
probably not. Because most
Merchant
of them,
raider is just going to be if you get spotted, you die.
like at most you can maybe get penguin, maybe
Well, any of the German merchant
that
raiders
has
would
eight-
do.
because that has 8 6-inch, but that's going to be so bad.
No, it'd be a tier 3 with a lot of
it's
health,
not
but
even-
no armor.
It's not even
Oh,
the
no, this is
firepower
gonna be
issue.
tier
It is
3.
just
And the
armor
speed it
issue.
goes at, and the armor, and
yeah. Merchant raiders are going to be extremely slow.
Not much slower than most of the... than some of the slower
Mo-
battleships in the game. Especially...
Yeah, but
especially...
A battleship
especially
is a battleship.
yeah, well, the thing is, the merchant raider shtick could be... like, they are very... like, they're... like, they have very high health, but they're... and they have very low detection range. Like, yes, some of them will have torpedoes, but they won't have many torpedoes, so they're not like insta-kill ships like destroyers. But what they are is like they could get to within sort of like basically the whole thing is alpha strike. So they'll drop torpedoes, and then when the torpedoes hit, they can open fire and reveal themselves. And if they don't kill you, they're gonna die.
that's A, terrible gameplay, and B, they don't even serve that role very well because
It doesn't matter if it's terrible gameplay.
No, oh
You
no,
know
it
what
does.
That sounds like that
It-
sounds
it
like
really
a
does,
submarine.
It's not even a submarine.
In fact,
Submarine-
Dragon. The question wasn't about how would they be implemented to gameplay. It's what that wasn't how,
But yeah,
the
these
question
are
that was
things
being
you
asked.
have
Yeah, no, we're
to
rambling
consider.
now, so, you know.
No, I don't, because that wasn't the question that was asked.
I feel that's not necessarily. If Timu's
it's
happy with that
alright,
answer,
it's
fair
alright.
enough. But it,
Like, look. The problem is that the question was
Yes,
vague,
Dr.
and
Clark.
I don't really have.
right to me that question. So what was the question again?
So the question
Is there
was,
any nation's ships that are not in game, and what tier would they be?
No.
No.
Is there a ship for every nation that existed, but it's not in the game? Can be any tier
Yes.
ship. So for every nation, the only thing that applies is auxiliaries and armed merchant
No.
cruisers.
No.
There's plenty of
No,
other
'cause-
classes.
There's plenty
that
of them.
isn't in the
It's
game.
got to
so-
be a ship,
Other
not
than
a class
auxiliary.
of ships. It's got to be a
Yeah, but
ship.
then that makes it easier fleet. For instance, China has what's it called? You could have Ping Hai, or you could have their 6-gunned heavy cruiser.
No, then how
not them.
then how is that going to serve in the Royal Navy, or how is that going to serve
What?
in the U.S. Navy? It's a ship
No,
type.
but that's not what.
No. I don't think that's what the
That's-
question meant.
That's what the question says, though.
That's not what we
No,
think.
that's
Like, if you're
Okay, so just one thing. Timu is in the YouTube
in the
chat.
YouTube chat,
Timu, please clarify in the YouTube
clarify
chat.
if you wouldn't mind.
Secondly, fleets, there was a very easy, and I'm just going to call you Boop now, because if you're booping along, I'm going to call you Boop. Okay, so
No.
Boop, there is a very easy solution to your problem. In a nice way, if you said, well, they could be part of the World of Warships as part of a mission-specific ship you could have, stuck in a convoy, you could have your armed merchant cruiser running along, so everyone thinks they're normally doing that convoy attack mission, and they've got past all the warships and they're through, and then suddenly, boom! One of the merchant ships turns out to be have far more Mr. Hyde in it than Dr. Jekyll.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bit of fun you could have, but
Yeah,
there are lots of
Timu-
options for those.
Yeah,
but
Timu, could you please
I
explain?
think-
Because I'm having.
I've just
Timu's
ship
already
of-
Timu's already dealing with that.
Okay,
a ship
Timu's
of war
Boop.
armed with a
Timu
gun.
is
every
working through
nation
that.
in the
Okay,
game.
That still doesn't.
a ship of war for
no. So
Every
that
nation in the
basically
That still doesn't
That-
explain. I don't.
No,
I still don't
it
understand
does.
the question.
right. Basically,
It's to be interpreted in many different ways. That's
yeah.
the
But
issue.
to me, I'm interpreting it as
No,
there basically
That's
still
not,
ships?
No, no,
I
no,
mean,
no, no,
yes,
no, no,
you're
that's,
can be
interpreting it that way,
areas
but the
too.
problem is it's Fleet's show. He has to interpret it,
yeah. I
and he's
can't.
interpreting it his way,
I can't.
which is
I don't.
annoying the hell out of everybody.
I don't know how to interpret that. Like, what do you mean? Do you mean a ship of war for
a
every
ship of
nation?
war armed with a gun larger than 3 inch for every nation in the game. There is one which is missing.
Do you mean a single ship that can apply to every nation? Do you mean one ship for every nation? Do you
A class. A ship of war is another phrase for a class. It's Finnish. Translation.
Right. Okay.
You're the
there
one
we
who
go.
has Finnish family. You should be the one to work this one out.
I don't
Yeah, but
speak
that
Finnish.
doesn't mean he speaks Finnish.
I don't either. I just visited there and chatted with them. Timu's lovely.
I know
Auxiliary
Timu's
ships are not
lovely.
ca-
The answer
Timu's
is gunboats.
So Timu explicitly states auxiliaries
It's
are
been the
not
whole
counted.
way there in front
Yeah,
of you.
it's not-
Gunboats. Gun larger than a 3-inch gun. Every nation has one. Isn't in the game. Gunboat.
That they are. A lot of the.
It's very obvious.
Some of
right,
the tier 1
so-
cruisers are gunboats.
No,
Yeah,
they're
you've got-
not.
Yes,
The
they are.
Ger- the
Erie
Ger-
is classed. Erie is classed as a gunboat.
So is the German
Heimland-
one. So is the
Erie
German one.
is. No.
The German Heimland is not a gunboat. It's a very light cruiser, technically, from what I've seen. Because I actually have seen its.
It's a
actual
colonial
thing at
gunboat
one point.
under a different name. The Germans
ship-
just trying to get around.
Okay, also, it is a ship or class for basically each nation's.
Right.
So I'm assuming basically, is there still basically ships or classes that they can do for every nation?
Oh, that's still making my brain hurt. I'm still.
The answer is yes.
struggling.
There's still plenty of ships for plenty of nations they could do. Looking at
Well,
you,
not
R
sh-
class. Why do we not have one of you yet?
Yeah, there are plenty of ships that can be added to the game that are still not in it. But as for one for each nation, that is.
I was
not-
expecting the
Oh,
Hosh as a tier 2 premium.
I'm not
Hosh
familiar.
How the
wouldn't
hell
even
are
fit
they
as a
doing
tier.
Erie?
I'm not
Hosh
familiar.
wouldn't even fit as tier 2.
No, she's not even close. This is
The problem
entirely.
is-
Oh.
Most tier 1s on
Because keep in mind, pre-dreadnoughts like Mikasa are tier 2.
And even then,
So
Mikasa's
Hosh
a
only
not-
has like 2
no.
guns. Wouldn't even work.
We're not.
I'm afraid.
We're not going to put Erie in there as being correct because they've mucked around with her settings. She is a gunboat, yes, but to make her fit the cruiser settings, they've mucked around with her. So no, Erie does not count. The Erie in the game has been World of Warshipized. She does not count.
Yeah, the problem is that I'm not that.
Well,
The problem is I'm not that
one
familiar with World of
evolution.
Warships. Yes, I've played it for the. I played for the community events for a while, but I didn't really. I'm not familiar with all the lines. I don't know what gaps there are. So
I would say Erie has been cruiserized to
Aha.
make her fit tier 1 cruiser. But
So,
theoretically, if she hadn't been cruiserized, if she blessed as a gunboat, she'd be a very good thing for everyone having a gunboat option for them to do. And the advantage for them would be they should be able to get very close inshore and do all sorts of things which other ships can't do in narrow waters. But you know what they've done with her is they've done all sorts of things to make her fit with the cruiser mold.
Well, it's to be fair, I wouldn't even say tier 1 has they're technically cruisers. They're just thrown as cruisers for
categories.
the class. They're not actually meant to be cruiserized, but
Yeah, but they have been.
Because, for instance, they don't even share the typical cruiser thing if they don't actually have a citadel.
the problem with
When all cruisers do.
I mean,
To
the
be fair,
problem.
the only thing Ares has is 6-inch guns.
Yeah, the problem.
If you check your street sharing, the
They've
rambling
modified
stream, you'll see something.
The problem.
They've changed the speed and things up, and it's
Yeah,
just
they
the
did.
sort of thing they've done.
Apparently,
They've
Hamlin is based on 39.
they've cruiserized her basically. To make her fit with World of Warships, they've cruiserized her.
Yeah, the problem.
It happens.
The problem with what's the word? The problem with adding world of come on, Fleet, use brain.
What is? Because keep in mind, the Royal Navy have. The UK have the Black Swan class as its tier 1.
what am I
So you could
looking
probably
at?
get like something like the Bitterns or
what am
the
I looking at
Kingfishers
here?
would probably suit.
What are you looking
Maybe
Well,
not
Black
Kingfishers,
Swan
maybe
are-
not Kingfishers, sorry,
They're-
Bitterns would
They're all
probably work.
slopes.
Yeah.
The British do have gunboats. The British have quite a few gunboats running around combat classes. Royal Navy gunboat classes are something which gets far too little attention.
Well, people.
And
are,
there's also, there's all the various motor gunboats as well, and some of them have guns which are larger than 3 inches.
yeah, people
They're not
do.
supposed to, but it's amazing what their crews fit on them.
So people are following me apparently, which is interesting.
Ooh, that's an interesting
People are
question.
following you?
Shot us.
Apparently, yes.
People are following you.
good.
On Twitter, apparently.
If you're getting stalked, you need to tell the police,
Not
not
that
us. Okay?
kind of. Look, Anyway.
You did leave yourself open for that one, but
Can
want to
we...
grab the next one then, Fleet?
Yes, so the next question is a Patreon question again.
Yep.
From Brandon
Yeah.
Larson. And we're going to be here a while, but we have to answer it because it's a Patreon question.
Goody.
What are
Ah.
your top five favorite naval vessels from each major navy? U.S. Navy, Imperial Russian, Soviet Russian Federation Navy, French Navy, Royal Navy, Italian Navy, German Navy, Imperial Japanese Navy / JMSDF, and lastly Chinese Navy. Oh boy!
To make everyone's life a little easier, I will discount myself from answering this. I will just judge all your picks.
Yep,
I
I'll just judge Fleet.
honestly, yeah, I think it's best if I just go through this.
Yeah, we will judge you harshly.
We can just collectively judge. Foxo, are you ready for judging?
So I think she's driving, so I don't think she can
She is
speak.
currently driving.
So
You're driving. Oh
so-
dang! I can't even
so-
tell that a Foxo to pull
Let's
in,
go
so she's
for it,
in
come on.
full voice for this.
So USS Enterprise, USS Texas, USS Olympia, the Tennessee class armored cruisers, and the Fletchers. That's my 5 for the US. For the Imperial Russian Navy, that's the Ganguts, the Rurik armored cruiser, the armored cruiser Aurora, the battleship Slava of the Borodino class, and I need one more, and that would probably be Cesarievich because of how funny she looks. For the French Navy, it's Hoche, the ironclad Redoutable, the battleship Richelieu, the what's the Charles Martel series of battleships, and my final pick for one of my favourites is Brennus, partially because of what she could have been rather than what she was. For the Royal Navy, I am legally obligated to say HMS Warspite. I am legally obligated to say HMS Hood. I am legally obligated to say HMS Ark Royal. I am legally obligated to say HMS Nelson. But the last pick is mine, and that has to go to HMS Monarch, the Royal Navy's first successful ocean-going turret ship. For the German Navy, it's really simple. I am... let's see, for German Navy, Scharnhorst, Blucher.
You didn't say which
the
Ark
first-
Royal.
The World War II Ark Royal, the Pacific carrier, that one.
Which one? There's technically 2.
She's not a Pacific carrier. We've been over this before, Fleet. Do I have to explain it again?
Oh, I was just. It was just.
Yeah.
It was just a slip of the. You don't have to hyper
He's a
focus.
strike carrier. The fact that
We don't
like
have
the
to go
American,
through
American
Dr.
Japanese
Park,
Pacific build carriers
Doctor.
doesn't make her a Pacific carrier.
Don't have to go
That's
through
kinda like
this every time I
Please,
slip
give it a
up.
sec.
Slip up every time.
Don't.
You're
Keep going,
getting
please.
as bad as
Keep
Knight.
going.
Ugh.
Keep going.
So,
I'm not getting as bad as Knight. I can be worse.
so.
That's a challenge.
Sorry, I forgot to do this. So, Italian Navy.
And you want for HMS Monarch?
Yeah, I like HMS. I like the way she looks. I like the
Yeah, I'll at least
on
give it
echelon.
credit for being a unique choice.
On echelon turrets. I like the full rigging. And I like the way she absolutely dunked on HMS Captain.
Well, that wasn't exactly difficult, but there is
know.
a small thing I'm sort of considering.
I just
Just,
like
you
how
know-
she looks. Like, remember, it's favourite, not best. So I like how she
True.
looks.
True.
So
Mm.
it's more aesthetics than anything.
I
else.
just
I think you could have went with a
Didn't-
nicer Monarch, which
I-
is the Orion class one, but
not unique enough.
I didn't realize he was such a Reed fanatic though.
So Italian Navy. So that would be.
But it does fit because, of course, Edward Reed was also a guy. He also set up a railway in Florida, so maybe that's why Fleet likes his ships because it has railways.
that
It's also the fact that he was one of the people who did write an article about the Hoche and tried to suggest it wasn't as bad as it was supposed to be. So perhaps that's why he picked Monarch.
No, I just picked Monarch.
But he could have just gone for Bellerophon,
I mean, it's really simple.
which really did. It was a good thing.
I like how she looks. It's not that deep.
There's also Devastation, which comes along 3 years later, which is the first masterless turret
I mean,
ship.
yes,
you know?
but again,
you know.
I
he
like.
chose Monarch.
Fleet also like. To be fair, Fleet also. I'll at least. I'm not going to call him out because it's at least an interesting choice that's unique. And yeah, if it's just purely down to what he likes the look of, it's fair enough. But it's just a weird combination of sales and fun.
I like it. I think she looks fairly attractive.
I just can't stand that personally. But
I like the
thing.
quasi symmetry when she's side on. Like obviously from the top she's on echelon, but she looks actually quite nice from the side. So especially
I'll take your word for
when
it.
she's rigged for sale, but that's just me. So for the Italian Navy, Giulio Cesare, Vittorio Veneto, the Regia Elena, and that's the Regia Elena class pre-dreadnoughts. The oh, I've forgotten the name of it now. 1 second. The San Giorgio class armored cruisers.
That's all one question, Moe.
And of course the very famous. Hang on. And of course, lastly, the very famous Garibaldi class armored cruisers, because they went everywhere. So for the German Navy, it's Scharnhorst class battleship, the Scharnhorst class armored cruiser, the Blucher class armored cruiser, the Brandenburg class pre-dreadnoughts. Well, technically they're turret. Well, it's weird. They're some people say they're turreted ironclad. Some people say they're pre-dreadnoughts. I think it's halfway in between. And the final ship I will pick is the Type 9 submarine.
Could be worse.
Imperial Japanese Navy, Yamato, the light carrier Zuiho,
Okay.
the Congos.
Which one?
The Congo. It doesn't matter. Any of them. They're all.
I mean, I was more to say because there's quite substantial differences between them.
Congo herself, she lasted a good long while.
Fair.
The Tsukuba class 12-inch armored cruisers. And the I-400 submarines. And for the Chinese Navy, there's Dingyuan and Shenyuan, the two ironclads that they had. The Pingyuan light cruisers / large gunboats they got off the Japanese in the 30s. Their problem is at that point you really do start to run out of notable Chinese ships, because I don't care for anything that the communist Chinese have built or operated, and none of the other interesting proposals that they were going to get ever actually ended up being completed.
Technically, Taiwan still has a navy.
Yes, but again, it's just Fletchers and a bunch. It's not anything that interests me or screams out. I can just call to it without having to go and look it up. So it wouldn't really be fair. So I suppose for the Chinese, I don't really have two other favourites to pick. They just get three.
That's going to be a fun question when Fleet gets to it from Night.
Oh yeah, I know.
That's actually a relatively simple one.
Okay,
It's
so
a
that
very
was
straightforward one.
that was that.
Now you've got the actual questions that start.
YouTube or Discord first?
Probably YouTube. Start doesn't mean to go on. So for Dragon and Foxo, a Zerlane question: if you could replace Mikasa's pre-dreadnought with a Type 2 design, what design would you give her?
Has there been another ship since Mikasa called Mikasa?
I don't recall.
That's what I'm now currently going to check. I don't think there actually has been, because isn't she very technically? She's decommissioned, but still kind of commissioned in the weird way that they can be.
It's kind of like there hasn't been another HMS Victory.
Yeah, So technically speaking, Mikasa can't get a Type 2 rigging. Type 2 riggings, Wellesley, are basically you're taking the ship girl as is currently and putting it. So, for instance, you've got Yorktown 2, which is the Essex-class Yorktown, was applied to the original Yorktown, which gave her a new rigging, new lease on life, considering she was dying of basically lung cancer, I believe, in particular. But basically her lungs were giving out as well on a few other bits. Her entire body was failing. So, technically speaking, Mikasa can't get a Type 2 rigging?
Now,
No, Amargi has the other issue.
there is an option. Okay, there is an option, and it's a very bad option. All right.
Mhm.
So pretty much no mainstream historian and no Japanese historian I know believes this. But there was a historian a few years ago who claimed that the A150s, which were the class to come after Yamatos, were going to be called the Mikasa class.
I consider that questionable.
Right, Bismarck.
Oh, you're nicer than me. I called him a frigging liar to his face and told him to go pull the other one. It had
Right.
bells on. In the
You're
middle of a
technically-
conference.
you are
But
technically
leaving that
correct
to
there,
one
Sly.
side, there is therefore a technically, based on a historian's belief that he has solved a bit of puzzle no one else agrees with and no one else believes the source he's claiming. It says what he's claiming it is. There is technically therefore a theoretical option. If you accept what that particular historian said as being true.
I will then counter-raise you, Knight, that technically speaking, Bismarck Zwei is not a Type 2. Bismarck Zwei is called Zwei because she uses the science of the Type 2 rigging, as well as the large now three-headed dragon Greyon, to absorb the Black Wisdom Cube's capabilities. She herself is technically speaking not a Zwei. It's just the choice they went with to make it so that we have a Bismarck Ultra Rare.
Overrated.
But to be fair, she is one of the better ships in the game, but vaguely, yeah. The problem is Azure Lane really likes catering to Ironblood.
Yeah.
Well, she does come with some cool graphics, let's be honest.
Oh yeah, like, honestly, I actually quite like Bismarck. The fact that, yeah, she genuinely rebelled against the scenario, almost was died because of it, and then came back. Yeah, that is a three-headed dragon that also fights. It is glorious. 17.
Didn't she lose one of her? Lost one of her 15-inch gun turrets.
She's just.
It's there, but it's just not physically shown.
She's just now budget renown, or larger renown, I guess you could say.
I think actually it might be further down Greyon's back, but I could be mistaken.
It's hidden somewhere.
But yeah, so to try and go back, Mikasa 2, technically speaking, it's not really feasible, and the problem is, I would literally be creating an entirely
If she
new
lifts up
ship.
her tail and a 15-inch turret comes out, that's freaking disturbing.
I'm not involved in this.
I'd just like to point that out. I'd like to point that out.
Yeah, honestly, the problem is,
I'm sorry.
I respect
I'm saying
Mikasa
I don't know where that fourth turret is. I don't know if I want to go looking for it because, frankly, it could be some very weird places on that dragon.
Darth Sidious asks on Discord, what if the We Want 8 and We Want Wait campaign in the UK failed during the Anglo-German naval arms race? How would this affect the continuing naval arms race and the following Washington Naval Treaty? Funnily enough, this is one of those questions that you think is going to be complex to answer, but in reality isn't. Because the Royal Navy knows what they want, which is 6, and the government knows what they want, which is 4. So it's going to be one of those two outcomes.
No, they're not the government, the Treasury.
Sorry, the Treasury knows what it wants, which is 4. So it's going to end up, if the papers aren't putting their candidate forward and putting pressure on the government, which is the 8.
No, it isn't. The We Want 8 is an entirely ancillary thing. The entire thing comes down to an agreement where there is a political fight going, We Want 8, etc. The actual agreement the government comes up with to balance things out between the Treasury and the Navy is that the Navy gets 4, with the condition that there would be 4 more built if the Germans laid down some ships.
So in that case,
the Germans laid down a ship. The Royal Navy got 4 more.
So in that case, then we just have the agreement where we just don't have the agreement for 4 more, basically.
Or the Germans don't lay down their ship.
Yeah. Either way, that doesn't. If the assuming
then the Royal Navy only gets 4.
Yeah. Which you only get 4 that year, but it's likely that next year they will go.
But remember, they also managed to, they got 4 of the R's, but they managed to also get a 6th Queen Elizabeth class added in.
Yeah. This is the
Somehow?
thing. This is the thing. Even if
It's one of those really strange scenarios.
Yeah, this is
where you
one-
actually go. So the Royal Navy gets 8. They actually know. They look at it and go numbers wise. No, the Royal Navy's ordering like 10.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's this weird zeitgeist of the period where even if the particular we want 8 and we won't wait campaign fails, it is unlikely to radically change build policy and the amount of ships actually procured, given the way the Royal Navy was actually procuring vessels at the time.
I know your favourite's not here yet, but you'll be here in a bit.
And it's not really going to have it's not really going to have any impact on the Anglo-German naval arms race and the Washington
You
Naval
like
Treaty,
Dragon and Mo, don't you?
because the wartime.
And you want to give Boop a bop?
I am not Boop. I am the Foo I can handle, but Boop I draw the line.
Hopefully, we can go back to the other one, which
There's
was
no
Philip.
line.
No, I don't want that one either.
Has anyone checked on if Runon's okay today?
Admittedly, no. I probably should do so.
This is her first Monday when she's not had to go, not gone into work in
Oh yeah.
a long, long time.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to even figure out what one of these next questions is referring to.
1981 asks, would it be correct to think that CVN
Oh,
65's cruise from 1961 was then following the... I don't think she was in commission at that point. I am 95% certain she was not. Oh, fuck, so she was. Damn, didn't
Oh,
realise
she
she was
was.
commissioned. God damn, didn't realise she was
She's
commissioned.
old.
Yeah, I didn't realise she commissioned that early. Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Was then following the Hood mantra from the Empire cruise of 2324 of how do you power project in deterrence for the most powerful ship in the world.
Well, then you can go earlier to the Great White Fleet. You can go earlier
Yeah,
to
this
the
is
British
what-
cruises
that
prior
was-
to that. In
yeah.
a nice way, cruising around the world has been such a template for such a long time that, frankly, no one
No.
can claim ownership.
Yeah, I feel like that's assigning, more credit to Hood and the RN than perhaps they deserve. It's
But even
just-
the Hood and the RN were just repeating something they'd already been doing.
yeah.
The thing is, the Empire Cruise has made a big thing of because it's quite a flashy. It's the first one which has photographers along with it. But nice way, there was an Empire Cruise done prior to World War One. There's an
Yeah.
Empire Cruise done almost every 4 years by
the
the
Great
Royal Navy
White
for a reason.
Fleet, Great White Fleet.
Yeah, it goes around.
It's just following the same old thing. And in this case,
Yeah.
it was a demonstration of this ship can just go up. Our escorts are going into port. We don't have to. We can just keep going and going
Mm-hmm.
and going.
No, she had 2 nuclear-powered escorts. None of them went into port.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was the full world. Oh yeah, I remember now.
It was a full E equals MC squared cruise.
Yeah, they just went and kept going and going and going.
It does leak radiation over the world.
Admiral Wellesley asks, what is Pippa's
Thank-
ship girl outfit
Yep.
based on?
I'm already looking into the.
Please
the
do,
simple-
because that is...
The simple answer is we don't know.
Oh.
The current consensus is that it might be the guns are based off German 128s to 150s, but she has no torpedoes, no auxiliary, no other rigging, and her shells have rocket boosters on them. So,
Yeah.
very good question.
Yeah, good
Gotta
question.
put Puppy in the garden.
Next question.
So, on YouTube... there we go. Stephen Mayer, during brew ships, the friendship Carnot came about, and those of us who observed the image agree that she was more distressing to see than Hosh. With your affection for Hosh, oh, yes, Carnot. Of all the Charles Martels, you are by far the worst, and the worst looking. At least some of the others have some semblance of decency to their looks. You don't even have that. It's like the worst of friendship design came together.
Oh, glorious.
Yeah,
Nothing quite like it.
yeah. Kano is one ship I cannot defend.
Love the food, glorious food.
Nor do I feel you should try to.
No, even Kano, I'm sat here and going, no, I don't.
We
think
know,
so."
we know you like Kano. We know
No.
secretly. You claim it's Hosh, but we know it's really Kano you love.
No, even I have to go. Good God above. What of all? Like I have a soft spot for the Charles Martels, as I said. Most of them.
How can you have a soft spot for most of the Charles Martels?
Because most of them actually look fairly decent and are, even if a bit flawed in their execution, are a decent transitional step towards an all-steel battle fleet. Still recovering from Je ne Cole, to be sure, and definitely not peer opponents for any of their contemporaries, but they'll trounce anything that came before them.
More holes.
But Kano is just, why? Why? She has some of the most aggressive tumble home out of any of the other Charles Martels. Some of them even come close to having just sloped sides rather than tumble home. But she just goes aggressively into it.
Yes.
And it's just, and also the port, also the, the open, yeah, it just ruins the effect. It's like a moving pillbox on the high seas. Even I have to go. No. Just for reference, by the way. If I remember.
Just for reference.
I'm just trying to remember.
That's always worrying when he says the words "just for reference." That's always a worrying point.
Yeah.
Just for reference, here is in my opinion the best looking and arguably best of the Charles Martel sisters, in my humble opinion. That being Jean Beret. I think she has by far the best looks of any of her sisters. If I can actually get the image in without breaking my PC, there we go. And she's actually ended up removing some of the issues regarding weight on the wings by grouping her secondaries into twins rather than singles, and keeping them at deck level. And she's one of the least egregious looking, because at least the designers found a way to hide a lot of the portholes in her structure without making them glaringly obvious. She also lacks a lot of the hotel-esque superstructure you find on a bunch of other French ships. Yes, there are the fighting tops, to be sure, but she doesn't look that much business at the top.
It doesn't look like she's obsessively business at the top and nothing else.
Yeah. Next question is Admiral Wellesley. What if on Discord? What if instead of we want 8 and we want 8, we want 10? Then
They got 10, so God knows how many they'd actually get.
12 if we're
12.
adding 2. Yeah.
Well,
Basically.
no, because they went up by 25%. So if you're going up by 10, that you could end up with 13.
Yeah.
I guess the question then is, what would these extra ships be under then?
Battle cruisers or something,
yeah.
probably.
Yeah,
Cruisers
battle
probably
cruisers.
will renounce.
No, they would probably be a new 15-inch design, because they would be... Because bear in mind, we had the Admirals, but they weren't started till a little bit later. So it'd be some form of proto-Admiral, in a sense. Probably
You
something...
don't think they'll just stay down one renounce?
Well, see, the thing is, the difference is that period they would probably be, and this is going to sound terrible, they probably would be battle cruisers. They wouldn't be battle cruisers, they probably would be fast battleships, because of the realities of what we're talking about at the time.
Yeah.
It just would fit them more appropriately to have fast battleships, because that's where the Royal Navy was heading at that point.
Yeah.
It's only when good old Fisher returns that you get the idea of, let's go back to this idea. Let's bring back fast battle cruisers.
Yeah.
The Royal Navy at that point was heading towards fast battleships.
Yes, and they
It would also be interesting to see how they would change their fleet after the naval treaties. if they've got these 3 older, fast battleships, though.
Yeah,
I'm presuming the Royal Navy would probably want to keep those around.
Oh yeah, you're
It
probably
depends
looking at a
on
lot
what
more of the
comes
13
out of
point.
them, but yeah.
You're looking at basically only the Iron Dukes being preserved at Washington. At Washington.
So Knight's
the 13.5.
Knight's just raised a point from earlier. The number 13s apparently have sometimes been referred to as Mikasa class.
Yes,
But also
No.
that's
Yeah,
also
but the reason,
No.
the reason,
very iffy and also.
No, the reason that's less iffy is because this is prior to the naval treaties, and bear in mind the Japanese were considering the possibility of scrapping Mikasa. It wasn't very popular, but certain members within the government were considering scrapping her to free up budget from having to maintain her, and that would have freed up the name. It's more likely in that period than it is when she's locked in as a museum ship.
Become
by
their victory.
Washington. Yeah. I'm not saying that it's 100% this is what would happen, but it's far more likely in that period than it is in... but yeah, so just very... Yeah, sorry, the answer that question.
So this is asking,
Yeah.
so does Fisher delay the introduction of the fast battleship into the Royal Navy?
No, if it's been... No, Fisher's not stupid. He won't do... Like, if the keels have been laid, he's not going to say, right, scrap that, we're not going to deal with that. He'll go, oh, new fast capital ships? Okay, carry on.
He does. He cancels Sergeant Corps.
Oh, yeah.
He cancels Sergeant Corps.
But, yeah, cancelling a one-off is one thing.
He literally is stupid.
Yeah. Wow, never thought I'd ever hear that. So...
Right, just because someone can be smart at times does not mean they can't be stupid at others.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
There are always times when people have shits up for brains.
Like
At night, I wouldn't make that
There is
definite at night. In regards to
a
Mikasa
reason why
without the...
people argue that
Yeah.
Fisher should not have been allowed back.
He should not have.
Yes.
Lord Mountbatten should have been allowed to remain. He was only booted because German name. Literally, German name.
Yeah.
But yeah, Knight, if Mikasa without the treaty would have gone for scrap, I wouldn't make that definite a presumption. Knowing Japanese politics and the importance they attach to symbolism, especially in that period, I wouldn't put it as a definite that she goes for scrap. Especially not when Amuro Togo is still in the fleet.
Yeah. There's a possibility.
Yeah, with Turgo still around, it's very, very, very unlikely.
As the Chinese planned a fleet of 10 capital... So that's the one on YouTube. As the Chinese planned a fleet of 10 capital ships, 8 28,000-ton and 2 26,000-ton battle cruisers, 54 cruisers, 10 10,000-ton armoured, 12 5,000-ton and 8 13,500-ton protected cruisers, 8 3,500-ton and 6 2,000-ton scout cruisers, 112 destroyers, 22 900, 450, 750, 250 and 50 400-ton destroyers, 28 85-ton torpedo boats and 74 submarines, 12 740-ton, 16 subs at either 450 to 600 tons, 18 submarines at either 350 or 460 tons, 24 300. Could you copy and paste into Discord so people can read it as well, please? 24 333-ton submarines, thank you, Dragon, 4 170-ton submarines and 41 airships. If the Chinese had built this fleet, will the IGN respond, and how? Will it trigger an arms race? Well, first of all, I would like to point out that the Japanese response will probably be hysterical laughter as the Chinese try to build this fleet, and then hysterical laughter as they keel over sideways under the financial burden of it.
Oh, you should see what time he said this fleet was being
You're
built.
basically talking about the equivalent of the... You're basically talking about an Ottoman 1870 situation. You're talking about a very shaky power financially, expending a great deal of capital to construct a battle fleet that, if they succeed, will likely be relevant for all of 5 seconds, for the nation that constructed it either defaults on its debt, collapses under its own weight, or, and in either of those circumstances, the majority of the fleet is left to rust. The Japanese won't be looking at this fleet will not be looking at this fleet as a challenge. The Japanese will be looking at this fleet as an opportunity. How much of it can we nick off with in the invasion of China?
No.
I'm
They
sorry.
might even need to invade. They might just purchase it from the bankers.
Yeah, this is the thing. Look, even
Where on earth would they build these vessels, Wellesley? Actually,
overseas,
this isn't that as much of a problem as you think.
most of
A lot of these were planned for purchase overseas.
And they
It
can
will
build, and they
be
can
In particular,
they can,
Vickers was looking at a lot of contracts.
they can build some of the small, especially if this is pre-Warlord era China. So this is discount Palpatine, so Yuan Shikai. If this is Yuan Shikai's China, he can
kind of.
he can build some of his smaller cruisers, his torpedo boats domestically. The destroyers he can't because the high quality machinery has to come from abroad. But the torpedo boats can be built domestically. And some of his smaller cruisers and auxiliaries can be built domestically. But everything that's about 2,000 tons and up has to come from overseas. And the thing is, Yuan Shikai... The problem I have with this is that Yuan Shikai's whole power base is dependent entirely on foreign credit to pay his troops. The reason why China collapses during World War I is because the foreign credit dries up that Yuan Shikai is using to secure his position, upgrade the country, and pay his men. It's the reason why Yuan Shikai's China collapses. It's not because he declares himself emperor. It's because he declares himself emperor right as World War I starts, and the foreign credit he's using to pay his men goes out the window.
Yep. But you know,
And they
these things
put
happen.
the mess back to the actual government and die.
Yeah. Yep. The problem is that it's China prior to Knight. Yeah, 7-year plan between 1930 to 1920 with infrastructure being built. Yep, that's exactly the period we're referring to. Yep, that plan lasts all of 1 year before China basically keels over due to lack of foreign credit due to World War One. That is
1 year. Not 1 year. The revolution hasn't even finished yet. Yuan Shikai doesn't even get into power until like 1950.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's
Your
right.
plan starts when the country is still in civil war.
Yeah. Because bear in mind, it's all going well until foreign credit dries up.
By the way, your plan ends after the warlords start fighting each other for a year. So, you have to dream up a very alternative China in order for this fleet to work.
Also, it just makes me think of the largest ship is a 28,000-ton battle cruiser or battleship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Congos, in their World War One fit,
Are
that weight. Yeah, like,
Yeah, this is far beyond China's
and the
capabilities.
Congos are actually pretty, and the Congos are pretty good vessels for when they're built.
Yeah, it's not. It's just so
the
far
fleet you
beyond.
proposed. The fleet you proposed is relatively bloated in number, but it's the ship's capability is going to be a little bit behind compared to everybody else, or especially against Japan. To be fair, it would be a
Japan will likely just continue their building programs, I would have thought.
Yeah, this is the thing.
Japan will
This is
probably
the
go, hello.
Yeah, this is the thing. The Chinese.
You worry me not.
Yeah, this is the thing. The Chinese planned a bunch of ambitious naval rearmament programs throughout their modern existence. The closest they got to actually pulling it off was the Qing in the 1880s and 1890s, was the closest they got to actually realizing a modern, effective Chinese fleet. And even then it was crippled by corruption, as we saw at Yalu River.
Now, to be fair, I believe we went through this before. Doug Clark has pretty much stated it's laughable to call it modern at the time.
Look, I said the closest they got to a modern fleet. I didn't say modern. The language.
He's getting very careful. I'm teaching him to become a historian by basically teaching him, what happens when you don't capture
I'm not a
language carefully.
historian. I'm an entertainer with historical elements.
Yeah,
I leave
I'm gonna get you there.
I leave that historical stuff to you people. I'm like the red carpet. Everyone walks on me and I direct them to where they need to go.
Okay,
Well,
leaving fleet sexual fantasies out of this.
Let's
Just carry on quickly.
Let's just move on.
Discord question, please.
Yep. Fleet apparently likes
Seriously,
stepped on.
man.
Moving along very quickly.
Things I didn't need to know about you.
That wasn't. Oh, that was a metaphor, for God's sake. And I thought it was a very creative metaphor.
Yes,
That.
you're lucky Foxo wasn't here, or at least wasn't able to speak.
Not everything has to be sexual, people. Come on, get your heads out the gutter.
It's more the fact that you leave yourself so open.
Anyway,
So regularly.
Next question.
So constantly.
Admiral Wellesley asks, during the 1920s, how long would it take to develop Bakar, Sirvanica, and Can I have a hand, please?
Nope.
Bakar, Cervenica, and Karoljivica into a port capable of supporting battleships. Does he mean Dakar? Time for Fleet to do a little bit of searching on the interwebs. There is no place. Oh! Various ports on the Yugoslavian coast. Right, now I know where I am.
Yeah, found what apparently one located in Adriatic. So yeah.
Yeah, I will.
Port Bakar, Rekia, Croatia.
Yeah. Now I will point out while the Austro-Hungarian Austro-Hungarian's navy's main fleet base in the Adriatic was Polar, that's not saying they didn't have significant naval infrastructure along the rest of the coast either, to house some of their other ships and various other squadrons that were operating up and down the former Austro-Hungarian Empire, from Bosnia, Croatia, etc. There are various facilities along the coast that can support battleships. The only real thing is if any of them don't have dry docks that can fit the latest and greatest in terms of battleships. And I also don't know the facilities I don't know the exact, off the top of my head, capabilities of those ports. I would have to go away and do major research on exactly what those ports were capable of handling in the period under discussion. Because obviously I know the Austro-Hungarians focused, the Austrians and then the Austro-Hungarians focused a lot of their large-scale naval infrastructure at Pola to try and concentrate it. But I know they did have some other infrastructure scattered down the coast as well as backups if they needed it. But I'm not sure where.
It's spread all over the place. It's basically it's where it needs to be.
It's the reason why the Italians were actually concerned about the Yugoslavians getting the Austro-Hungarian fleet, because the Yugoslavians may not have been able to build a major navy, but if they were given one, they might have been able to scrape the money together to maintain it. There's a difference between letting a obsolete collection of destroyers and an old cruiser go to waste, because at that point you've got so little, what's the point? But if the Yugoslavians had had a good chunk of the Austro-Hungarian navy, there may actually have been the impetus to provide the funds to actually maintain that navy at a basic level of readiness, or at least parts of it. And they had some of the infrastructure, then they had some of the infrastructure to do it. But for how long it would take, I reckon some of them already can support battleships. And even if they can't, you probably wouldn't. You'd probably pick whichever one of those ports has the best facilities and upgrade that. Basically, whichever one takes the least work. Because again, we are talking about Yugoslavia here. It was even...
They're all going to take work.
Yes. To support Tegetov, not too much. They are fairly stocky ships. They're not what you'd call the largest in terms of dimensions dreadnought battleships ever built. And there are only and there are only two of them left.
Well, that is true.
I mean, okay, there are the 3 Radetskis as well, which would probably also be retained as frontline capital assets.
True.
But then again, yeah, but I suppose what you need. You'd need 2 dry docks capable of supporting at least the Tegetov, because that gives you the ability to have 2 of your capital ships down for repairs at any one time. You'd probably want 2 yards that can support... Basically, the condition for the other 2 dry docks would be your Habsburg-class battleships. So, you know, the last but one. Because if you have those as your baseline, yes, they're not likely to be in service that often, but they're a good baseline to use as your next step down dry dock, and at that point you should be all right. If you have 4 dry docks, 2 big, 2 mostly big, you can fit whatever you need to into your... You've got enough capacity there to really make do. You're fine.
Yeah.
I mean, alternatively, you could do, or alternatively, you could just do what the Turks did. Stump up the cash to buy a floating dry dock.
Britain is always happy to sell them.
I mean, that's literally what they did. They stumped up the cash to buy a floating dry dock to take Yavuz. And that's how they gutted her and rebuilt her. And I do mean gutted. She had a full boiler replacement.
Yep.
So, no, there are no more YouTube questions. Oh, hang on.
Okay.
Oh, no, never mind, there is. Sorry, I misread that. Knight 681. So for the RN ships, 1 year of wartime service was equal to how many years of peacetime service? I don't know this off by heart, but Dr. Clark does. So it's a fairly easy question to answer.
We've answered this one, I'm pretty sure.
We've answered this several times. Basically, if you've got... it works out at roughly 4 years for capital ships is 1 year of service. Wartime use for a carrier is roughly 6 years, the same as with a destroyer. And for sloops and those things, it's roughly 8 years. So the smaller it is, the more it's overused.
CQ Profit asks, why don't we give every country with a navy a Nimitz class? This will benefit no one and be actively detrimental to all. Well, the Royal Navy's happy.
No, they're not. They have to run it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, he did say they have to run it. Because I was going to say they could sell it on, but no, they have to run it. Well, the Russian Navy is happy because they've been given a whole bunch of technology to poke at. And an active
where are they going to store it? How are they going to poke at it?
The
nicest way.
Nicest
way. And just because you have a fancy car doesn't mean you can work out what's going on in it.
No. The only country that would be really happy about getting a Nimitz to poke around with is probably China.
Yeah, you're probably right there. I mean, the French are just happy.
Even China's going to be a bit upset.
It is a big thing. I don't think they have the ports to handle Nimitz yet.
They have the ports, but it's not going to be something they're going to be actually enjoying dealing with.
Yeah. Thing is, if it's with single ships, it's not too bad.
Hello, guy.
For some of the larger navies.
People.
It's the Dutchman. Yeah. Sorry. This is obligatory. But yeah.
Do you have to be so xenophobic that you point that out every time you meet him?
No. You're mistaking positivity for xenophobia. It's excellent. It's a good thing. He's the Dutchman. There is no one like the Dutchman. There is only one Dutchman, and we love him.
There can't be only one Dutchman. You're literally calling him a Dutchman. So you're literally just you're telling him all his values is the fact he's a member of the Dutch people.
Also, I know. I also know another
Stop it.
Dutchman
smiling.
who
Stop
is
it.
also incredibly important.
Stop it.
After all, one of the lead modelers for Stellar Parallax is a Dutchman and is paid in stroopwafels.
That is a good way to get paid. I think we can all agree that's a good way to get paid.
Oh, did I? Ay.
He's an excellent modeler. Like, some of his stuff is genuinely glorious.
Okay. Alright, so, come on, Fleet, use brain.
Again, I keep telling you not to oversell this show.
The problem with the Nimitz question is that for a lot of the nations, it just sits there gathering rust until the UN probably has a commission to bring in all the extra Nimitz class for decommissioning. Basically, from the nations that can't handle them and shouldn't have them. So,
what's the question, you?
It's why don't we give every country with a navy a Nimitz class? This will benefit no one. It's actually detrimental to all.
I'm fairly sure this was actually said in the context of the World Warship question, but it's funny when we take it out of context.
Yee.
Nix.
Next question. Yep. So YouTube. Would the Fairleigh Albacore have been a dominant torpedo bomber if not for the rapid advancement of technology? No.
No, it was an interim build.
No, it was an interim. It was always seen as such. It was basically Swordfish, more modern engine, enclosed canopy, done. That was it. That was it. That's being generous.
That's being very generous.
That one's actually going to be quite simple one, Wellesley, but it'll be fun.
It would be.
C-Dotters asks on Discord. I don't think I've missed anything. Nope, I haven't. C-Dotters asked on Discord, what would you recommend as a replacement for the Erie as the United States Navy's Tier 1 in World of Warships? Oh, probably one of their old unprotected cruisers that lasted a fair while.
What are we talking about here?
Let me
replace that Tier 1 ship.
Remember, protected cruisers are Tier 2.
No. I said unprotected cruiser.
That's Tier 2 as well.
No.
Yes.
Not in the weight class I'm talking about.
Which is why I'm asking, what are you referring to here?
I'm just trying to think exactly of which one I would pick. Probably the Montgomerys.
That's going to get murdered.
Yeah.
That's not even fit for Tier 1.
Are you kidding?
It's got two 6-inch guns.
Did you miss the secondary battery?
It's still going to get murdered. Because remember, in World of Warships, you can only use the largest caliber gun. Which means the player is stuck with two 6-inch guns. Which results in those 5-inch are under AI gunnery, which means they have reduced range and reduced accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, never mind. No.
So.
Oh, no, never mind. No, Dragon. That's actually incorrect. They're going to be the most powerful Tier 1s.
Huh?
They did not retain their 6-inch guns for long and were unified into 5-inch armed ships.
Then they're still going to lose.
Why?
You are aware of the stuff like the Black Swan exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is far more powerful with its 4-inch guns.
Yes, I'd say it's about equivalent.
It's not.
It would probably be one of the heaviest.
No, because the Black Swan can just turn its guns. Also, it's only 18 knots, which is not ideal.
Some of
Most
that,
of the
that's about the same as all of the other.
Others can go up high.
No, Dragon. It's about the same as the real world speed of a lot of the other ships. But because it's World of Warships, they had 2 to 3 knots of speed on average to most of the designs they put in.
So when were they refitted into a full 5-inch refit?
1897.
Dragon, stop trying to stop boot from booping.
Stop it.
It just doesn't work. You can't stop boot from booping. Boop, just gonna boop.
Like, just because I'm not really finding much about that, which is why I'm curious. Most of the refits I'm finding are some of the other ones.
It's right there. It's right there. It's there. Armament.
Like, which ones exactly? Like,
armament. It's there. It's right there in the article. I'm looking at it.
Right, that's good that you're looking at it.
Just scroll down to armament and read through the section. It's right. It's clear as day.
That they were built with 2 6-inch and that they had 8 5-inch secondary. Like,
keep reading.
Yes, then what? 8 6-pounders, 2 1-pounders, 1 Gatling gun, 3 18-inch torpedo tube armor.
No, the text in the actual article, Dragon.
That's the bit I'm trying to find where you're referring to.
It's literally called armament.
Ew, excuse me.
It's right there. I'm sitting here in Scarpa Flow looking at it.
No, I can see that. Right. That's not a refit fleet. Some were right. A number of them were substituted for 4-inch guns.
Keep reading.
And then references vary on how the lack of 6-inch guns were calculated. So apparently, the Detroit was
Keep
put with 6-inch guns
reading.
that were removed in '94, and but other ships were complete with only 8 5-inch guns.
Yes,
that's not a refit.
Keep
All
reading.
all 3 ships had 10 to 18 to probably do an additional deck on the. Those are still going to die. Like
It's
these are not good ships. They will get murdered.
5-inch 40 caliber guns.
Also,
about
if you want to say 10 5-inch guns, then
five gun broadside. 5 gun broadside.
Yeah, like,
that's fine. That's not that bad.
Oh, that's bad. That's bad.
Considering some ships have a broadside of 4 5-inch guns.
But they have much better fire rate to make up for it, and are in turrets.
What do you mean, much
and
better?
not open mount?
What do you mean, much better fire rate?
As in, they have a higher rate of fire.
Why would these ships have a less rate of fire? They're in open deck mounts.
Because they've got more guns.
So 4 is a bigger number than 5 now.
What?
I said some ships have 4 5-inch guns in 2 twin turrets, and you said they've got a better rate of fire.
Give you a bit of more fun.
Because the ones with those 4 guns have a higher rate of fire because they've got 4 guns.
Oh.
Shall I move us off this topic just to give us a bit of fun?
I feel like Dragon is trying to apply realism to World of
Guess
Warcraft.
what someone has just pointed?
No. I'm trying to apply.
What has just happened in the world is the world has just caught up with some of the history. Okay, the world has just caught up with a lot of historians already knew from history. In that the year 1917, UK got from Denmark a first right to buy agreement for Greenland in return to acting as guarantors over Denmark's continued thing to it, continued control of it. In 1917.
Wait,
So-
what?
Trump has just been told by the Danish that they can't sell it to him because they have to first offer it to the British. before they're gonna sell it.
Brilliant.
Oh my God!
Please note, Keir Starmer could finally deliver on that Wikipedia article that says, of course, under the British Empire, you can help by expanding this list. We can put Keir Starmer's face under it because he can expand this list.
More British overseas territory.
Oh
Brilliant.
my God! I know we won't buy it. I know we won't buy it. But it's still it's nice.
the Danish don't want to sell it.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's nice to know we're acting as a guarantor for Denmark. It's good to know that we help our friends.
Yeah.
Oh, very, very good.
Apparently, there's a list of countries who have a right to buy it, which has been agreed in the past. Britain is number 1, but there are others on the list.
Oh, that's great. Oh,
Link to article. Oh, let me track it down.
Next question,
oh, that's good. That's very good. That's funny. Okay. Where was I? So Luxembourg, Luxembourg supercarrier replacement for Erie. Did that. So that would be
YouTube now.
yes.
YouTube.
USS Montana asks, USS Kentucky BB-66 arrives in New York Harbor in 2025 in a World War II configuration. How does the USN react? Museum ship. Because, first confusion.
Even.
Yeah, first confusion. Then joy. Then more confusion as they realise it's Kentucky, which wasn't finished. Then then more joy. Then museum ship.
Isn't that actually? I don't necessarily see it. It might not be a museum ship, and if it's actually complete and functioning condition,
The problem.
you might see them. You actually might see them use it.
No. It's no.
If it's in full pristine condition.
Dragon. The crew
What?
with the knowledge base no longer exist.
For what?
If a BB-66, so Kentucky, one of the Iowa class, appears in full condition, pristine condition in 2025,
In a World War II era refit. So World War II fit. Basically, actually would have been completed if she had been completed.
Unfortunately, Fleet, did you just say the crew who could do it no longer exist?
It's the reason why. It was one of the main reasons why the.
When did the last Iowa leave service?
The year 2000.
1991.
Yes, that's 30 years ago. the institutional
But
knowledge.
they still have the institutional knowledge.
No, they do not.
They still have the.
They do.
No, they do. Let me rephrase that. Okay, so nicest way. There are still plenty of people alive who have the knowledge. One of the reasons why they got rid of them was because keeping them in seaworthy order for their operations was becoming too expensive. So if it comes out in full pristine condition, well, you've got it as availability, and let's be honest, the US Congress are nothing if not mercurial. They'll probably get so obsessed and decide this is a god-given ship. And let's be honest, then there's going to be whichever state is actually it's named for. So they're going to be nutty as well over it. So, nice way they probably would put it into service, and you'd probably see a lot of very long retired chief petty officers and petty officers, or rather people who were junior petty officers when they were aboard them, but are now then retired as senior petty officers, get some letters through their doors going, "Would you like to join the US Navy?" Again.
These are people who'll be in their 60s, 70s, or 80s.
Not necessarily.
No, they won't.
If they joined when they're 18,
and if they'd probably been about in 1999. They'd probably be in mid-20s to early to 30. So yes, they're going to be about in their 50s.
They're nearing their retirement age.
There are some going to be in the early 60s, but frankly, they're probably not going to be that unfit or that unhealthy, and they probably actually love it. In nice way, if you got to go back to your youth and serve aboard a battleship for a couple of tours to show people how it was done, at the age of 60-something, would you do it?
Yes.
Yeah. As Wellesley's saying, they'll probably be brought on to train the new crew. And also,
yes, they'll probably be brought across. They'll be activated for a couple of tours, so about 18 months.
No, Wesley, they
it'll be 18 months.
Donald Trump.
yeah, they wouldn't rename her.
18.
And not
18 months aboard a battleship. Let's be honest, they'd all be loving it.
Now, she'll probably get a refit, just have some more modern stuff put into place, but...
Actually,
Oh,
is
yeah.
there a USS
Again-
Kentucky in commission right now?
Like, because, if anything, this is as was a discussion on Brew Ships last night, this is an excellent show your flagship.
SSPN.
Right, they might actually have to rename her.
Then there is Illinois in A1, or... Because I know that was a
Probably.
consideration for one of the Iowas.
Oh, for good. Oh, for
probably
good.
all of the names are in use for ballistic missiles, but in nicest way, they just call it the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, probably.
They could.
I mean,
That's all. In nice way, they just offer it to Kentucky. What name would you accept for it to be named in Kentucky? We go, we'll call it the Kentucky Derby.
no, it can't be in Montana. Montana's already a ballistic missile submarine.
Yeah.
What
What
I
about
mean-
USS Coming?
Oh no, it's really easy. She's gonna be the symbol of the United States Navy and the US as a whole once refitted. So she may as well bear the name.
No, because you don't name a ship after your nation.
She's already going to have
I
that
know the-
symbolic nature anyway, so there's actually
Yes,
no
Doesn't
but
harm.
don't make
matter.
That doesn't matter.
Don't make it worse by
Doesn't
calling it
matter.
that.
Even the Americans have managed to avoid that at the seventh minute enough times. You don't want that.
USS Emperor of America.
They could call it USS Beaver, as after all,
Right,
Kentucky is famous for being
SS
part of the
United
Beaver
States
Wars.
is different though, because that's not a warship.
Nah, call her
Um,
Kentucky Fried Chicken. Get some funding from KFC.
Yeah, but then could you imagine they would probably want advertising rights, and that would just be
Oh.
annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
they
that's
could call it
fine.
USS Frankfurt. But I think they probably go
USS Prince
Kentucky Derby.
Eugen.
Look, in the nicest way, if you want to get cancelled, please go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
But in a nice way, the group which you do not want to get cancelled by are the are the Wives and Daughters of America, Kentucky chapter. They are a vicious group. They take no prisoners. It's Wives and Daughters of the American Revolution, isn't it? I've
Yeah.
got to get this right because my cousin is actually a member of them.
So, next
Let
question
me
then,
just
please.
check.
Yes. Next question. So that would
Was
be
it Discord?
Yes, it would be.
It's the Daughters of the American Revolution, not the Wives and Daughters. Daughters of the American Revolution. And yeah, I've got a cousin who's a member of the Kentucky chapter of that group. So yeah, I know how tough they are. They have an annual shooting competition, and it is lethal.
Lazy Author asks, what if one day before the Pearl Harbor attack, all of the US warships in there suddenly became ship girls? How does that change the Pacific War? What ship girls? Just go with Azure Lane. That
Significantly.
Yeah. You have at that point opened you have at that point opened such a can of worms that we are no longer fighting World War II.
Yes, you are.
No.
Well, you're fighting something.
Well,
You're fighting
right. Well, Fleet. What do you think these ships would be used for?
Well, they're not ships; they're ship girls. And in Azure Lane, they have weird, wacky, super duper.
They also have their actual ships.
Whiz bang power.
Mm-hmm.
If their rigging isn't, if they do not activate their rigging, it is their actual full ship form.
Well, they could just activate their rigging, and then they're not going to get hit by the bombs.
That's what's probably going to happen first, and they're going to probably use the AA guns to try and shoot down the Japanese planes. Because there's going to be a lot of crew who all of a sudden just fell in the bay.
And I'm wondering why a bunch of very attractive young women are also swimming in the bay.
There's going to be a very
happy on the water.
Yes.
There'll be a very happy admiral somewhere.
Are they the property of the United States Navy?
Well, if they actually follow the proper ship goals, they will be loyal to the United States and will want to help the United States. So they'll probably still go, yeah, we'll fight this war.
Oh boy, nobody tell the sailors.
You will then probably then end up with them basically being used in similar roles to what they were historical, at least operational wise. Except now, oh god, enemy ships are closing in too much. Let's turn to ship girl mode so we don't get shot at as easily.
Or alternatively, imagine Halsey trying to give orders to a ship girl.
It would be interesting.
It would be.
You probably do still see World War II turn out relatively similar to World War II. It's just now all of a sudden you've got very strange American propaganda reports claiming, yes, probably the Valkyrie Corps or something. See the girls of the United States fight the Japanese menace. Like, the US will come up with some sort of way to propagandize these.
Yep.
Imagine King giving orders to ship girls. Imagine the talk he'll have as form his flagship. That would indeed be amusing. Next question then, please.
Yes.
Don't remember off the top of my head, admittedly.
Admiral King might insist on commanding that fleet himself, because we all know how protective he was of his daughter. Now his former ship is actually a ship girl, in which case she has become his daughter. Ergo, Admiral King will demand probably to meet the admiral put in charge of her, like he's dealing with the first person ever coming to pick his daughter up for prom.
Mm-hmm.
Can we all imagine Halsey turning up with a boutonniere to Admiral King, sitting there with a shotgun, stroking across his lap? Just imagine that.
So Brackman's saying, just imagine a reduced amount of expenses for food, ammunition, and fuel is all of a sudden quite a useful advantage to the USN.
Yeah.
But then the USN have all had a question of, so we've got like a good 10,000 sailors practically here, who no longer have a ship to operate on. Ha! And the Japanese did just attack us, so I guess we'll need to find new posts for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, indeed, aircraft wouldn't need to be piloted. So, if you also include the aircraft carriers that are getting transferred as well.
Well, it says all the ships, right? Or are we talking
All
about
the
just
ships.
the ships?
Well, it says
All the destroyers.
all the US warships. I thought for some reason I read it as just all the ones in Pearl Harbor. So yeah, all of a sudden, the US now no longer have a navy, but are building a navy. They have a lot of sailors who are very confused. Honestly, a lot of sailors probably start drowning because oh god, we're out in the middle of the ocean and our ship just transformed. I guess their one hope is that the ship girl would relay a message of, right, send help, transforms back into a normal ship. Like, it would be a very interesting scenario.
Yes. Timu Loco, railway question. Fleet, what is your favourite US-made locomotives of the modern era? Oh, that's really easy. Because most of the US locomotives are the same derivative nonsense nowadays. They're all the same body shell with different bits underneath, so it's not any of the modern freight engines. It's really simple. It's the AEM-7s.
I now remember a giant argument about this last week after you finished ramblings.
AEM-7s, I'm sorry. They're the only modern US locomotives that I think that actually I can call close to being my favourites. But basically because they were mostly Swedish.
No, we just got confirmation Dragon was right. It is just a ship at Pearl Harbor. So, the U.S. battle line, basically.
US battle line starts going to sea by all just having accommodations on their aircraft carriers.
Admiral Wellesley asks, would 10170 Enterprise be NT5 or NT6?
Nope, I counted. It's NT7.
Okay.
If we're going solely off US, if we're going solely off American ones, because you have the Space Shuttle Enterprise, which is counted, XCV 300 and NX-01, which is 4, 5, and 6, and 1701 Constitution would be NT7. If we also include the CV6, the 65 and 80, if we include English Enterprises as well, it gets even longer.
Wait, are we not counting the frigate?
Was there a USS Enterprise frigate one? Because normally Star Trek only refers to the carriers.
No, there
So
was
if
a
we include the
frigate.
frigate, then it would go up to 8.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as it, Star Trek tends to cut it off at the American carriers and then does include the
No, they don't.
British
They
ones.
do
but
have
not
model.
the same way.
I'm sure I've seen a model of the sailing ship in one of their things. Their lists.
One of
That's
them.
HMS. No, that's HMS Enterprise.
Oh.
How's that?
Yeah, for some reason the American ones are only counted up and before only counted from the carrier Enterprise.
Or I guess it
Whereas-
wasn't really a frigate, it was
there's a
more
couple
of a
of others.
sloop. It was one of the sloop that was privately funded by the private citizen when, the funny Barbary pirate things was occurring, and the US has basically no ships.
I wonder
Like,
what
I guess
Admiral Lee
technically-
would
I don't know.
actually be
I don't know.
like with
Yeah,
a USS
sorry.
Washington
Sorry,
ship
you've
girl.
Who?
Crash, technically speaking, it starts with HMS Enterprise of the 16th century, the frigate named Enterprise of both the Royal Navy and US Navy, apparently, the schooner USS Enterprise of the late 18th century, a brig under USS Enterprise, which was used in the 24th century holodeck program, apparently, USS Enterprise CV6, CVN 65, CV, now there's, technically speaking, would be CV80. Then you've got the Space Shuttle Enterprise, XCV 330, NX-01. So actually, it'll be Enterprise 11. If you're technically going down the proper line, well, so it would technically be Enterprise 11.
Technically.
If you're getting that far.
Yep.
Anyway.
In relation to Ship Girl, she technically speaking would be Enterprise 11 still.
Okay, so the next question is that was a fairly rapid fire back and forth between YouTube and Discord.
Because
1971.
they don't jump to the most. They don't jump to the most new. Yes, Lazy Author. I'm pretty sure that one has been answered.
Yeah. 1971. Were the Treasury planning to force the RN to use the G3s to replace the 3 surviving 334mm and 4 305mm battlecruiser fleet, and the N3s to replace the surviving 13.5 and 12-inch fleet? Honestly, even if they weren't planning to force it, to be honest with you, in a world where 16 and 18-inch battleships are running around at 25 and 30 knots, apart from as second-line units to hold the lines against the opposing second-line units, the 13.5 inches still have utility in that role, but the 12-inch
They're gonna be
battlecruisers have got to go.
The 12-inch ships were gone already at the end of the World War One. The 13.5-inch ships were going to be phased out by the generation, which were the G3s and the N3s.
So expect, in a nice way, the Royal Navy the Royal Navy's plan was to build roughly what we can tell from their plan, because they're building them in batches of 4, which means they've gone back to their policy of the prior to really sort of the early part and quite a solid part of the naval race, was just 4 a year, which is quite order 4 a year, which is quite constant, can keep the yards going, ticking over. Remember what the Treasury requirement was? They didn't want to limit the Royal Navy, they just wanted only for order 4 a year, because that's what the Treasury calculated is the economically most efficient thing to do for production.
Yeah, and it's also worth
And
pointing
keep
out.
the prices down low.
It's also
So
worth pointing.
the Treasury were happy for the Royal Navy to order 4 G3s in 1 year, then order 4 N3s the next year, then order 4 of another type the next year, and just keep ordering 4. The Treasury's perfectly happy with the Royal Navy doing that.
See, man, like the Treasury and the Royal Navy may not like each other at some times, but the Treasury isn't always tight-fisted, and the Royal Navy isn't always fiscally irresponsible.
No.
They do work.
G3s were 16.5-inch 16. There is a debate as to whether their final design is a 16.
Sorry, I did a Freudian slip there. I said 16 rather than
They are
16 and a half. Sorry.
They are 6. They are. It's a case of they're all the way through. They go through their design. They're 16.5s, and then as they're being ordered as with the 16-inch specials, which is confusing people because people don't sure whether they're 16-inch or they're 16.5-inch. Honestly, I think myself, the Royal Navy was hoping that the treaty was come through was going to allow them to build them, but they were going to be set at maximum 16. So they'd worked it out so they could be built with 16 and not lose face. And if it didn't come through, treaty didn't come through, I wouldn't be surprised if they found themselves with 16.5-inch guns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So where were we?
Somewhere over the rainbow.
Way up high.
Has Boop lost his place again, puppy?
Okay, look. Seriously.
Even my research
Defoe?
assistant just came to say hello.
Defoe, I don't mind. But I'm drawing the line at Boop. Come on. Like, I have my limits. I can only take so much teasing. Come on. Defoe, I don't mind. Fleet, I prefer. Defoe, I don't mind, but not Boop. So that was that. Then we did...
Yeah,
Yes,
the
don't worry.
trouble
Now.
is-
He does get
the
that.
thing is,
It's just him. He made it.
I presume you must like it because I presume you must like Boop because I've changed your nickname on my channel to Boop for the last 2 weeks and you haven't noticed it.
Don't mistake lethargy for strategy.
I've decided lethargy means you accepted it.
You don't get to make that judgment call. Only I get to make that judgment call.
Based on
Grab the next
whose
question,
authority?
Fleet, before you keep getting distracted.
For fuck's sake, I've forgotten where I am.
Boop.
Eerie.
I think Mercer has got anyone
I
is
think
the Boop.
you just did a YouTube, right? So it's a Discord.
Yes, it is a Discord. And the next Discord is if you could save either HMS Hood or USS Yorktown from destruction with a guarantee that they would survive until the end of the war, who would you save? Also, what if the rush development of the British 15-inch gun failed? How would the QEs in the following classes look like if the gun was delayed? Well, first, it's Hood. Yorktown goes down, but she's not a catastrophic loss in capability for the USN, and also, more to the point, she doesn't go down in catastrophic destruction, taking most of her crew with her. Hood is a loss in capability for the RN, and is a catastrophic loss of life.
Said if Duke of York and the others weren't coming online as soon as they were, you can make that case more strongly.
Hey, I didn't say I didn't say essential capability. I said capability. They're down
15-inch the 15-inch guns. If they had not worked, the Royal Navy would have been in serious issues. It was a gamble. But as I said before, it wasn't as much of a gamble it can make seem, because basically they just invested in a gun at an earlier point in design development than they normally did.
Crash build a triple 30.5-inch turret to make up for the lack of larger guns? Question mark.
No,
I would have thought you'd probably go with 14-inch if you really were that desperate.
no, you lie and say the 15-inch works.
Yeah.
Until you've made it work.
Yes, the 15-inch definitely works now. What else do we stick in here?
Yeah.
15-inch works. 15-inch works. Of course it works. Why would you not say it works? What's the problem with 15-inch?
Yeah.
Talking, look, in a nice way, the 15-inch is a 13.5-inch. You know the 13.5-inch works, so why do you think the 15-inch doesn't work?
Don't worry, this is just the 15-inch special.
Megascrow, you can claim that's an F, but I know really that's the poop.
If it's the possibly yes, if you wish.
So.
Okay, I'll put you in a gun. Talking to the poop made you want to go poo poo.
Oh, I told you to lay off it. So there are actually no more YouTube questions. So Discord question again, which is Cdoddus asks, Fleet, your thoughts on the
Not
Henri
true.
IV class battleship? Henri IV was basically, well, she was an experiment, and that's widely known. She was a test of various design features by her designer. It's the reason why she looks as strange as she does. She was a small ship, to be sure, but arguably she's one of the better French pre-dreadnoughts. She's got in fact, if you to ask most conventionally minded people, they'd probably say that she's by far the best looking. I don't think any of my colleagues would disagree with that, given that Henri IV is almost conventional looking as far as French pre-dreadnoughts go. She doesn't even have tumble home. She has gradual stepped in sides, not tumble home.
It's not the worst looking ship I've ever seen.
She's very much a second class battleship.
But she's still quite ugly.
Like I say, not my personal favourite, but by no means the worst looking ship, and by no means the worst.
It also
British.
doesn't help that I just really dislike those single main guns.
I like single main guns. I think they're goofy and fun.
They look stupid.
I disagree.
Especially when your turret's so large and only a single gun.
Well, yeah,
It just-
it's
yeah.
designed. It's designed. Well, yeah, Dragon. There's a reason for that. The French were obsessed with being able to fire their guns at any angle and any elevation. They were obsessed with this far earlier than the rest of some of the other powers.
Yeah, but they obsessed about it at the wrong time and got the wrong results, I'd argue.
In the age of the swirling battle doctrine, the general melee, I'd say they were right on the money. Of course, they didn't realize that it was going to return to line of battle at range. So I'd say they just got caught up. Right. Next question. Let's check YouTube.
You have been missing YouTube ones, from what I can tell.
No, I haven't.
So what about?
It's been
Knight's
neglecting
one
the YouTube
earlier?
chat. It has been, definitely.
No, I haven't missed any questions.
So what about Knight's one from earlier, Fleet?
Which one?
I know you
So-
skipped one, but that was
The
directed
Knight.
to
So what about
Foxo,
Knight's 4 Foxo? Do you think the Royal Navy would use retrofits to wreck the designs of its ship girls, given the
No.
designs are not what they wanted?
That wasn't there before.
No.
I'm fairly certain.
What do you mean that
looked
wasn't
in-
there
I
before?
looked. Oh, that's why. Oh, that's why I switched from top chat to live chat. That's why. I missed
Well,
it.
yeah.
That's why. That's why I wasn't there before. All right. Well. Foxo's not here, sadly, so it doesn't.
You're one to bet.
Oh, there she is. So for Foxo, do you think the Royal Navy would use retrofits to correct the designs of its
You
ships?
trying to say hello to Foxo? Is
Given-
that it? Is Foxo
given-
come on and you want to say hello?
Given the designs are not what they wanted.
Sorry. I have a poodle who's saying hello to Foxo.
Hello,
Very
Poodle.
intense,
I met 3 huskies today, all in different houses.
Huskies are adorable. Hyper, but adorable.
Rawr.
But then, go on, Fleet.
I asked the question.
Well, Foxer, did you hear it properly?
That's not a.
Hmm.
It's not an answer.
Hmm.
Give her a moment,
I am. It's dragging out.
because if not, I'll answer it.
They would use retrofits
That's not
because
how
it plot
retrofits
reasons.
work.
Exactly. go on,
Retrofits
Watson.
don't work like that. No. No.
Retrofits are what a ship got historically refitted.
Yeah, it's like. Well, some of them aren't because you get retrofits for ships that didn't exist. Looking at you, China.
Actually, no, all the China ones are. Because all the Chinese ones are retrofits to guided missile destroyers, and technically speaking, those are how the Chinese got those ships. I guess the other example is the munition ship and the seaplane tender. They technically both got refits.
Well, technically,
Did the battleship get the Did the battleship get a refit? I didn't think it was the
which-
battleship. It was the seaplane
which,
tender,
which battleship, Dragon?
the Chinese one that from AL.
Which,
I didn't think
which,
Shanghai
yes,
got it.
Yes. Which name? What name?
It's
What?
a one that didn't exist historically. It was a
Right.
design, but they was never built. Give me a moment. I need to find it. 'Cause I don't bother
Battery
with.
Officer has arrived.
It'll be Huang Chang, but no, because she's already a super rare, and she's not an ultra rare now. The ships that got refits were Shanghai and
It is nice
Huanja,
to actually. It is nice
think?
to actually see that we've passed.
Huanja
We've passed 30 people total.
and
in
Shanghai
Ramblings.
have got refits.
So we're at 31 people total in Ramblings, including.
When we answer the question, Fleet, can you not cut us off?
Okay.
Alright. There. Yeah,
Rude.
because you've got the two seaplane tenders, both have refits, and then you've got Anshang, Changchum, what's it called, Fushun, and Taiyuan. I think. Does Taiyuan have a refit? Yeah, she does. She has a retrofit now. Oh yeah, because she's got the snake one. I also want to say, where is it?
We're just waiting for the missile
Yes,
cruiser
that's it.
refits of the Baltimores.
Yes, Sen also got a retrofit, which I think also was a semi-historical thing.
But yeah, unless you're a Chinese ship, which is debatable, refits are based off historical refits and rebuilds. So if the ship never got it, they're not getting it. Unless
Which is
you're
why-
Chinese.
Which is why people want the Admiral class refit for Hood, and that's a very unlikely situation.
Because she's
Yeah.
not Chinese.
Or if you do get an Admiral class refit, it will be a PR ship. Like some
Yeah,
I've
it probably-
seen going around
it
for
probably
the
won't be
Admirals
a
and the
P-
Admiral successor.
It won't be a PR ship,
successors.
because it won't be a PR ship until World of Warships introduces a until they introduce a Admiral class refit, which I really don't get why they haven't done yet.
Yeah, but I mean, I suppose.
Probably because depending on which one they introduce, because they've got two naval historians who are their very close working partners.
Well, right, Wellesley,
And
the argument because it'll be
they've got
Vanguard
to-
2 doesn't really work
they've
because
got
they
to
could easily
pick-
mess with the stats.
And they've got to pick which Admiral refit they
Yeah,
go with. Have they
Fleet,
gone with the one
Wargaming don't care.
So
I
I-
was trying
what
to
you
make a joke, Fox.
we get-
So
wait
I
a
Yeah,
was,
sec.
but what,
Yeah.
but you're trying to talk. We're talking over Dragon as he's answering a question.
I was
because
adding to the.
You
well,
weren't.
wait,
You were off
calm down,
topic.
calm down a sec for Foxo, and we'll go to Fleet Point in a sec because I get what he means, but it won't matter much, I'm afraid. The reason what they would do with a Hood 2, in my opinion, is they would give it battlecruiser armor, give it 25mm plating, give it battlecruiser dispersion, 15% speed boost. Voila, you have a tier 8 admiral that's not just a clone of a Vanguard. And as you were saying, Fleet, about how they might have 2 historians that would yell at them. Well, I
No.
kind of hope that would happen
Well, no,
if they mess it up.
No, it's more the fact that they have to pick which variant they're going with. Are they going with Dr. Clark's version of Hood, or are they going with Drax's version of Hood? Because they're
Why
both
not
slightly
both?
different. They're both slightly different.
Why not both?
Not that massively different.
Because I know there's some debate over the shootout if they would get 4.5s or 5.25s, but
4.5s.
both are nice looking.
Next question. I
I don't think he's ignoring UC Cube. He's just tactically choosing not to touch that. 'Cause he probably hasn't seen
I'm
it
gonna
yet.
go get some whiskey. I'll be back soon.
Oh no.
Oh no.
This is
That
not going
sounds
to
sensible
end
to me,
well.
Foxo.
Admiral Wellesley, you're head of the
I think you deserve. I think you deserve it, Foxo.
do
So go
not
get it.
encourage the fox to drink.
Not encouraging the fox to drink. You are
That-
encouraging
Whoa,
it to drink by your
hold-
actions.
Whoa, hold on just a minute. That's a dangerous precedent.
What?
Oh, you-
Saying that your actions are encouraging your poor friend to drink?
I
That you're
am-
driving your good friend to
I am
alcohol?
not driving my good friend to drink.
From what I can tell, Knight, the Hiryu and Soryu refits are based on historical stuff.
Admiral Wellesley asks, on Discord, you are head of the battleship design group within the Royal Navy. The year is 1938. You have just received intel on the Yamato-class battleships. You know its general capabilities, and you must design a ship to respond. You cannot just spam out lines because the politicians are yelling about needing 18-inch guns. What do? You don't know the war is coming either. No hindsight. 75,000 tons to work with. She must have 18-inch guns.
In that way, I'm not working on.
and
I'm not working
preferably-
on 35,000 tons.
No, 75,000
I'm-
tons.
75,000 tons. Oh, that's easy.
She must have 18-inch guns and
Yeah.
preferably be able to break 30 knots. 28 is perfectly acceptable.
So this is where I think
Yeah.
Foxo could get very happy if you just bring up Thunderer.
I mean, honestly, I'm half tempted to just go for an expedient option and run a line class through the printer at like plus 50% scale.
I'm not sure you're allowed to do that, but
I mean, whatever.
Why not?
I mean, for me personally, it would just
He
it would walk, talk, and act like a bigger lion, but it would just have 9 18-inch guns. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but it would basically be Dreadnought from Drake's Drum.
yeah. I don't see
That's
them
a
just
good argument
scaling
for
up a
that.
Lion class to make a. I don't necessarily see them just scaling up a Lion class that much. I suspect you'll see a lot more changes in that design.
Well, no, as in, I'm not saying it's an exact scale up of a lion, but it would look like a scaled up lion.
Also, it's 1938, so we'd have to see about what we can actually get at hand, and we've also got no hindsight, so
Yeah, so in that case, then I would definitely go with the safe option. Take your existing class of battleship and work upwards in capability.
I
So-
would do a new design study. If we're aiming for a battleship of that scale, or that firepower, and
well,
we're
bear in
having
mind-
to give it 18-inch
We've got
guns,
design. You've got design studies. They did design studies with the King George V for everything up to the same design study that produces the Lions and King George V also has a larger variant
This
in
is
there.
what
So
I mean. Yeah, take the
Right,
same
let's go with that.
then instead of scaling up, I would look back at those studies.
Well,
then
that technically is still
Yeah.
scaling up. It's just taking the larger design study.
it's not. That's not a scaling up, though.
Dr. Clark's looking at you funny, Dragon.
I can't tell because what's called Discord's slightly lagging out.
I would say it is and it isn't.
It both is and is not. But I mean, and also I would say
Yeah.
I would also say you don't know war is coming. Well, I'd be the only one in the UK who didn't know war is coming. I may not know war is coming in 1939, but everyone knows a continental war is coming.
Like, from what I can tell, CQ, because I've got a brand new mic and my mic's working fine from what I can tell, I'm just noticing occasionally the Discord channels is dropping like mental.
It's been an issue with it. Yeah, I'm meaning to ask the Admiralty if we can migrate the server that Theatre at Sea is in, because it seems to be suffering a little bit.
Fair enough, like from what I can tell. But I wouldn't class the Hiryu and Soryu refits as a PR refit.
But I
And
mean,
also, they literally just get magic, technically speaking.
the problem with my level, the problem that I have with my level of knowledge,
Like Hiryu grows up a bit.
with my level of knowledge when it comes to answering these questions, but stuff like, you're designing a battleship in X year with set parameters, is that I know just enough to not want to make a pig of it and do the baby's first battleship or junior's first, whatever we're building for this era option. But I also don't know quite enough to have a proper, reasonable, I can say with some level, this is acceptable for the period, like Dr. Clark and Drat can. I'm roughly in the middle. I've got the worst of both worlds. I'll get there eventually, but...
You do well. You do well.
So, YouTube question. Basically, it would be
Back of a large glass of whiskey.
It would be... Basically, the battleship would be some form of ship between 50 and 70,000 tons, 28 to 30 knots, armed with 8 or 9 18-inch guns, and a secondary battery of 5.25. Probably armored to resist its own guns. That's a fairly... Those are all fairly reasonable statistics, I think.
Yeah.
Can't
Well,
say this week
I
because
was
we don't
gonna
really
argue
have
too
any
much of
outlook
that.
or information on them. This is why I have issues saying that they are necessarily this, because the only information we have on a lot of refits is what they visually look like, and well, Hiryu now just has a set of burnt cards.
Why were the Admiral class given 16 140mm breech loading 5.5-inch 50 caliber Mark 1 guns? Oh, I actually know the answer to this one. So the Greeks had ordered a set of cruisers with those guns, and the British didn't use that caliber. And the British purchased them for use in the First World War. And they really, really liked the gun! It actually had a lighter shell than the 6-inch gun, but almost equivalent penetrative performance.
Yeah.
So they went, okay, yeah, we are actually going to buy this gun now, and we're going to put it on our new battle cruisers. It was a short love affair. It was a short love affair with the 5.5.
It wasn't that short.
They dropped them for the G and N3s, didn't they? They didn't use them for the G and N3s. They went back to the 6-inch.
Yeah, but they had reasons for doing that. They did. Basically, the idea what they were looking at engaging and distances and how they were integrating them into fire control. Because once you're building turrets, it's might as well build it for a 6-inch because that's going to give you just slightly more. It's value for money. It's when you're going casemate, the 5.5-inch goes really nice. When you're going for something bigger,
I'm surprised that some of the Royal Navy's later scout cruisers and the C's and the D's. Well, not so much. Maybe not the D's, but I'm surprised the C's didn't get single 5.5s rather than 6-inch guns, given how the Royal Navy was quite fond of it. Because twins.
But if you wanted to, but the thing is, you have to remember at that point the 6-inch is rather the standard, and as much as they're fond of 5.5, when you're using the cruisers, you just want to churn out the cruisers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You just churn them out.
Yeah.
And the C's and the others are mostly copy paste. I do love how YouTube gives me 2 languages for all my subtitles, which they claim are English United Kingdom and English automatic captions.
Okay, so come on, Fleet, where's your brain? Oh, this is an easy one to answer.
Oh, that's an open question. Can we have Mo? Where do you think Fleet's brain is?
Well, as far as I'm
Oxo?
Well, I know where it is. It's down a mine
Dragon?
Well, I know where it is. I know where it is. It's down a mine shaft in North Wales.
It's in the boop?
No, it's
in the boop.
No,
Okay.
no, it's down a mine shaft in North Wales.
It's the boop.
All right. It's in the boot.
Poseidon
No, it's
7.
poop.
Poseidon. Oh, for
It's
fuck's
poop.
sake! For fuck's sake! Poseidon 7307
No,
asks.
right. Does anyone remember that hatch that got launched into space by a nuclear weapon? It's the fastest
Aye.
man-made object ever.
No, for fuck's sake! I know where this is going.
That's
No,
Fleet
that's way
Marvel
too
trying
high.
to escape him.
Poseidon 7307 asked on Discord. What if in 1938 the Royal Navy Sun received 6 Nell rods magically with modern QE power plant running her screws and manuals on how to run them? How might that change the war? Where are you getting the fuel for the gas turbines? And the replacement parts?
That's not so difficult.
But more importantly, I don't think the Nell rod
Gas
shaft...
fuel, gas turbines can run off aviation fuel.
I don't know if the Nell rod shafts can handle that horsepower.
You put in Queen Elizabeth class power units, right?
Yes.
No.
Which means they're not shaft driven anymore, not direct drives, they're electric drives.
Ooh. Can they actually keep them running? I suppose if you cannibalize half of them to keep the
Yeah.
other half running.
Nell Rod
Yeah.
is Nelson and Rodney combined. So it's a lot often shorthand to Nell Rod.
Could you cannibalize 2 to keep 4 going while you run up a production line to get the other 2 back into service?
You could probably keep all 6 going quite happily for the time to take. Think about how long it is between repairs, etc., for a gas turbine.
Yeah, that's a good point. And well, Frank Whittle will probably go, "Excuse me, I'm just going to barge into the engine room quickly to have a look at this."
We're also
It won't be. It won't be Frittle. It won't be Whittle. There's a guy at Brown Curtis who's working on something which is the proto-marine gas turbine, so it'll be him.
Well, no, but he'll want to look at it for the, how big can a jet engine
No.
actually get? Because remember, gas turbines are just jet
Maybe,
engines.
but,
under a different name.
Yeah, but first of all, then he's going to have to be read into that they exist, and that's not going to happen because remember he's Air Ministry.
True. Well, okay, well,
So Admiralty.
even then, six new battleships. Yeah, I'm sorry. Congratulations. The Iron just goes, okay. I guess we win. Basically.
Especially with that power plant, those ships are going to be 28 knot definitely ships.
Yeah, the Iron just goes, we win. German Navy dead. Italian Navy dead. Japanese Navy dead.
Let's put it this way: you have those 6 running around. You can, well, you're going to change a fair number of things. For starters, you might even change the balance of it. Oh, do you even bother building the King George V?
No, but it's 38. They're already all laid down, and you won't bother building the Lions. You won't build the Lions. You'll use those slips for other things.
No, why are you building the King George V when you've already got the new standard as a 16-inch farship?
Because you've already got the steel cut.
And you've got to crew them.
No, well the thing is, you've already got.
You haven't got the steel cut of them.
Yeah, all of the KGVs are constructing by 38. They're all
constructing, but they're not finished by a long way. You haven't paid the full price on them. Remember, you pay in stages.
Yes.
So you might well adapt their construction. So what's the other thing the Royal Navy's chronically short of at this point?
armor plate.
Yeah, armor plates.
Carriers.
What's the other thing they're short of?
Carriers.
So, thank you. So what you might well get is some of the King George V's will be converted into a carrier hull.
Well, then we're back where we
The
started. Then.
KGBs be really bad carriers, though.
Well, then we're back where we started. Then.
Huh? They won't be that bad.
Because they're really short, aren't they? Compared to a lot of the
No.
good hulls that were converted.
Not that short.
No. And they're 28 knot ships,
If you could get
even with all their armor.
courageous
You could probably
into
get them going a bit quicker.
pretty decent fleet
Yeah.
carrier, you could probably get KGV into a
I'm
better...
also going to point out
Like
that then
745
we've
meters
just
long,
Especially-
or 745 feet. not meters,
Especially
God
if
knows.
you
enough.
think about it, you're starting at the point before you're not converting them when they're built. You're converting them when you've literally got engines and hull. You can do a lot of work on that shit.
Yeah, yes, that's true. but
Remember, Saratoga, Lexington grade work.
yes, that's true, but
Okay,
that-
but
yeah,
weren't
but
battleship conversions pretty bad universally?
no,
Well,
it's
Being
No.
carriers?
They're better
No.
than having no carriers.
but I would also like to point out
I've
to the
got Calgary as
the-
a decent example.
to the panel generally
pretty well.
that the Royal Navy has a desperate. Yes, the Royal Navy is short of carriers, but They also
Mhm.
want capital ships as well, and they are building the KG. Yes, they have 6 new capital ships, but if they have the KGVs constructed, they can also have 5 more, which means they have enough capital ships to cover everything without any gaps.
Yeah, but the trouble is, what are the KGVs?
28 not fast battleships.
They're treaty-compliant battleships, technically,
Yes, but
which aren't great.
14 knot ships. 14-inch gun ships.
yes,
So you've got a whole load of 16-inch gun ships now.
yes.
So you've now got 8 16-inch gun ships in service in the Royal Navy.
Uh-huh.
Each armed with 9 16-inch guns, right?
Yes.
You've got a whole load of 15-inch gun ships.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to turn around and tell me that the most sensible scenario for you is to complete all the King George V's as 14-inch gun ships. No, the odds are what you do is you take the first 3. They're too far along to be changed, so you can't turn them into aircraft carriers, because that's an easy one. That's going to be King George V, Prince of Wales, Duke of York. And then Anson Howe, you're going to get promoted to the first of the Lion class, because that's an easy conversion for the position that you're in your hull.
That
To a 16-inch
you
gun
can't
ship.
take KGV and turn it into a lion.
Depends how far
You
along
can.
it is. You can.
Yeah, you can.
You can.
That's not how ship construction works.
It is.
It is.
So right,
what
just
does that
right.
do?
What do
getting
you think is a
sticky-
big difference? What is? Can I just before we go on, what's the major difference between the King George V and the Lions?
Guns.
That means you can't convert them when they're under construction. You haven't put in the base framing yet. That means you can't convert one into the other.
I suppose if we're at the level where it's just the basic frames, then I suppose you can convert any ship into any ship at that point.
So
I mean,
just
that's
doing
where
some very
Ensign Howe
basic,
was at.
just doing some incredibly basic looking. KGVs are what's it called? Gotta bring that right thing up. 745 feet long, 103 feet wide, 33 feet draft. Lions are 785 feet long, 105 beam, and 33 feet draft. Draft, they're almost the same.
Yeah.
Beam, they're not much wider, 2 feet. It's basically a foot per side. The only difference, the real difference, is the 40 extra feet in terms of total length. But if you're in early stage of constructions, I don't see why that couldn't be changed.
The only thing I'm
Well, that's not
the only
good.
thing the only thing I'm questioning is how far along.
They come from the same design study. They've
I-
got the same hull shaping going on.
I
It's
know,
very easy.
I know.
You're
I'm
curious,
just-
I
but I'm
think you're
just
about to ask,
thinking. I'm just thinking
how far along in construction were they?
Yeah, because like King George V.
We're talking about Anson and Howe.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
It
is the
came
term.
out in like 41.
they weren't that much. They weren't laid down significantly later than
They
their
were.
contemporaries.
Yeah, they were.
Yes, there were.
Yeah,
Right,
they were.
so King George and Prince of Wales, 1st of Jan. Duke of York, 5th of May. Anson, 20th of July. Howe, 1st of June.
That's
There's almost a full year between the first 2 and the last 2.
a full dragon.
Sorry, half
Can
a year, sorry,
you-
not a full
I was
year.
gonna say, can you read?
Oh, says you.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, and also you have to remember there's also the components. Anson and Howe were ordered in April 1937. King George V and Prince of Wales were ordered in July 36.
That's still 6 months of building. I can't see them being so
No,
little constructed.
no, let's put it this way. Okay, so when King George V and Prince of Wales were ordered, and to sent the Duke of York, the moment they're ordered, you start ordering components, right?
Yes.
So they are ordered in July 1936 and laid down in January 1937.
Yes.
They had 6 months ordering before they were laid down.
Right, now I see.
So
yeah.
you had all their engines and things further along.
Duke of York also
all their
had...
bases hill.
Yeah, Duke of York also had the same thing, whereas Anson and Howe have very little gap between being ordered and being laid down. That's the difference. Right, there we go. That's
Yes.
that's what I wasn't seeing. There. That's the bit I didn't... There we go.
And that's also the
that's
reason
the
why they
difference.
are commissioned in April and June 1942.
Yeah, so it's not the fact, yes, they were laid down not too dissimilar to Duke of York, but a lot of the parts to enable Duke of York to advance at the speed she was going are not there for Anson and Howe.
Mhm.
I wouldn't. So if you say, well, just keep building the KGB and retire the R class early.
You could
Why?
do that, but then you've got logistically
I mean-
support 14-inch, 15-inch, 16-inch, all that mass.
Actually,
on
no,
like
actually,
William.
wait, Dr. Clark, just a thought. Well, maybe not Lions, but what about Proto Vanguards? What about reducing the construction time of Anson and Howe by retiring 2 of the R class and turning them into Proto Vanguards, if they're not that far along? It would get you two modern, fast 15-inch ships.
You could do that. You could accelerate because, again, you have to remember you were going to be replacing with 5. You now got 6.
Yeah.
So the thing is, what you've done is as you've added on 6 instead of 5, you've actually pushed the Royal Navy that much further ahead because they're trying to raise themselves up to roughly 20 capital ships.
Yeah.
Because they want to have a fleet in both the Indian Ocean and Mediterranean and the home fleet, so they need to have a certain number of ships. They're aiming for 20,
Yeah.
and that's when they're going to start getting rid of the R's once they've reached 20. So the thing is, if you consider you've now got 8 16-inch gun ships in service, so that's your 8. You've got the 3 battle cruisers, which takes up to 11. And then you've got 10 Queen Elizabeths and R's, which takes up to 21.
Which means
So yes, you could use the
if you remove one
the
R,
turrets in storage.
yeah, and then
And
one
you
R.
could do 2 Vanguards.
Yeah.
You could
And
convert them into 15-inch
Also, then
gunships.
you've got the 3 KGBs coming along that are already too far along. So that brings you up to what, 24
Well,
basically.
no, remember the far along KGV has been converted to carriers.
That stops you having to deal with 14-inch guns
Yeah, 'cause
and
of that.
14-inch ammunition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thing
Can
is,
you convert the KGVs to be 15-inch though at that point?
well, no, that's what we're doing
Go
because
for the
you-
3 by
you could
3
do it-
15.
Well,
You could do with Anson and Howe. You could turn them into 4 twin turret, 4 15,
But at that
4 twin 15-inch gun ships.
but at that point, I'm thinking about basically speed of construction because you remove the some of the longer lead items. Although then again, you'd reduce the speed of construction anyway because
This is just making me think. Hey, Vickers, about
You've
that
got the
15-inch Mark
14-inch
III 50 cal.
you've got the 14-inch gun. The 14-inch guns. You basically got you've got the way I see it. You've got 4 options for capital ships. Anson and Howe completed as is. Anson and Howe completed with 3 quads. Anson
If you're going to complete Anson and Howe as is, you might as well complete King George V and Prince of Wales and Duke of York as is, and do Anson and Howe as something different.
No, I know. But I'm just listing off all the options here that I can think of.
Yeah.
So Anson and Howe as completed as designed. Anson and Howe completed with 12 14s. Anson and Howe completed as Proto Vanguards. Anson and Howe completed with 9 15s. Anson and Howe completed with 9 16s. Those are the 5 options I can see. And out of those, in terms of most to least likely, so from most to least, Proto Vanguard, 9 15s, 9 16s, 12 14s, as designed. Simply because the Proto Vanguard is the one with the least effort that brings you into line in terms of munition supply with the rest of your fleet.
Yeah.
More importantly, it frees some of your battle cruisers up for refitting.
Yeah.
Slavgen, the 14-inch armor supply might be hardly deficient, yes, but if you can just get rid of it, why wouldn't you?
That was basically the major argument in the Navy going against it. And a nice way, the argument was put forward was, well, we do it for 2 16-inch gunships, so we don't need to, we can justify it for 14-inch gunships, and that was what's put forward. If suddenly if you're supplying 8 16-inch gunships,
the calculus changes.
you need far more factories to support those ships now.
The calculus suddenly changes.
And suddenly you've got a case of, well, do I really want to have arms factories working on 14-inch gun shells when I need them working on 15-inch gun shells because I've got 13 15-inch gunships and I've got 8 16-inch gunships? Do I have enough factories to have enough spare factories to produce enough 14-inch shells for 5 14-inch gunships?
Yeah, this is the thing.
Honestly,
Because we
the
are
whole- the
talking
Navy will be very
thousands
smug.
of shells.
This will be a very happy RN. This will be a very, very happy RN.
I'm just more imagining the Royal Navy's admirals being very smug, looking at them going, only 2 16-inch armed ships, you say? Only 2? Well, We
Like-
no longer
like-
have the concern, do we?
Honestly, these Nell rods, especially with their gas turbine power plant, may form the core of the post-war fleet. To be blunt,
Now,
depending on how hard they're run during the war.
how would the other major powers react?
Well, in Germany, they'd just be literally crying into their hands, going, "Well,
Yeah, they can't do much.
that's it. We're done."
There's a nail rod that's doing 28, 29 knots.
Yeah, it's just that's
and
it.
they've got they've got 6 of them.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the other scenario is that they decide to try and upgrade Nelson and Rodney to have the same engine power plant.
Or
If they
similar,
can figure it out.
or,
They can produce it, yeah.
or similar, or somehow get them up to a similar
And that's-
speed.
That's the other thing that could affect Anson and Howe, and the construction alliance. Especially if the Royal Navy, because it's 1938, the Royal Navy has enough time to figure out those power plants.
Yeah.
They won't be as good, but they will be quite good.
So
Next question then, fleet.
where were we?
That was a YouTube. That was a Discord, so it'll be a YouTube.
Yes, it will be a YouTube, won't it? So there we are. So it'll be a YouTube.
Is it night?
So yeah, I'm
Again?
just having a look. So that was that one. So that was the discussion about refits. I'm not sure if that's a question. This is something that Foxo can answer because I have to take a quick break to check on the dogs. That's it. They won. Was the canoe-shaped hull design going to fall out of style with the RN after the G3 N3?
What's the question?
Something about hull?
Was the hull design of the canoe-shaped hull design of the G that the Royal Navy was looking at for the G3, N3, and then the other class going to fall out of fashion with the
Style.
Royal Navy after they've been built, or out of style?
Yeah,
What do you think? Why?
because it's a coverage issue, isn't it? Because, if I remember correctly, the Nelsons could get limited protection over the bows because of how their layout was. But then if you go back to a conventional design, you get greater coverage. You got secondary and anti-aircraft batteries, which became very important by the time the Royal Navy's building capital ships again. All right, how wrong?
Broadly speaking, basically, it's all these things. It's all everything when they're built, the capital ship when it's built, and the reason we have stars on the fashion things is they represent the best thinking of their time, and that'll be right for their time. But it's also their anticipation of what the future is going to be like. One of the things I think that's interesting is if the G3s had been built, I could see very quickly people getting very fed up with that turret being in the center of the ship. There is a reason why very quickly in the F3 designs, etc., and Nelrod's turret gets moved forward. It's very annoying where it is. It really isn't a good position. And all four designs, they have some issues, but also some of those issues in terms of coverage and secondary coverage are to do with our understanding of naval architecture at the time. An interesting point made about the F3s was because they backed on to the superstructure, you could have theoretically built up and put a secondary on top of the secondary in a raised super firing position over sea turret. And that would have been interesting. Knowing the Royal Navy, that would have been a pom-pom system if they had actually done it, not a 6-inch gun or anything like that. But there were actual options available with that design thing. Once you're going though for the super firing B raised over A and C turret, that actually makes that more problematic. Anyone want to guess why? Anyone want to guess?
Sorry, say again. I've been grabbing
Probably
questions.
because it's you've got to raise it above the super firing?
Yes and no. It's because of the guns.
Turret?
If with B turret being super firing, because it's one of the few the gun which can do the greatest turning around and is therefore most vulnerable for firing aft in the position it is, whereas in the F3 arrangement it would be A turret, which could give you the most coverage aft. With B turret being it, that means if you have something raised up on the superstructure, it will get affected by the concussion of the guns if they're firing aft to the point at which it will be useless and could actually cause you trouble. So you can't build anything there. Whereas if you're in the F3 arrangement, because of the position of C turret in front and then it behind it, that acts as a bit of a brake, but also that means you're not going to be as affected. You'll be using A turret, which won't affect you in the same way because there'll be just enough distance.
So that actually has me thinking. Oftentimes, due to warships and also occasionally other designs you've seen for the M2, you see a all-forward design with a third turret facing backwards towards the superstructure. I presume then that would encounter the same, if not worse, of an issue of now the ballast is even potentially closer, so you either have to ban the turret from being able to fire at these certain positions, or
yeah, and that's why automatically, whenever I do a turret like that, I automatically start shifting my secondaries far back, which doesn't impact actually in UAD, in other dreadnoughts, when you're designing ships. But in reality, you should be moving your secondaries back as far as you can from the blast of that gun.
Because there's always something that annoyed me about the Ismo in World of Warships, that it's got that turret which faces the rear. I know that is based on one of the actual Yamato designs, one of the A140s, I think. So that's just interesting if...
I mean, it's
to consider that aspect
it's an advantage of the rear-facing turret there, though. The idea that you can shorten the actual citadel even further.
Yes, you can. Okay.
But at risk of potentially blowing out your bridge, apparently.
It allows you to make things even more efficient in terms of your space, your space for ammunition and handling and support of the turrets. But it's absolutely terrible for the ship. It's one of those. It looks so great in theory on paper. In reality, oh no. But yeah, very good answer, Foxer. So what's the next question? Let's see if we can have a go at that before Fleet gets back.
Oh, it's Fleet not here? Oh.
No, he's not.
Oh.
Boop is off looking after his dogs, which is a very good and
I'll
noble
just go off the next one on my list, which I think actually is from Moe. What would be the response to the Tiger Cubs that Dr. Clark proposed be from other nations' navies? Actually, Christian, no, there's another one before that, but we'll do that one next, as I've said that.
Actually, when I did that in the video, because they come out so quickly before World War One, there isn't really much of an option for many people to do anything about them, anything to counter them. The Germans are so focused on their capital ship construction; they're not constructing any cruisers. It's the same with the Americans, so they're not gonna do anything. The thing is going to be after World War One and what happens afterwards, because my view is that ships in that size would probably form their own separate category, because the Royal Navy's not going to get rid of them. So the Royal Navy's going to turn around and go, when they go, we want to include these ships. Well, they're not capital ships, they're cruisers. But they're in the sort of, they're 18,000 tons. So they're, if you want to make the fact that the Royal Navy, now any ship below 18,000 tons doesn't count in the Washington Naval Treaty, the Royal Navy will be ecstatic. But that's going to have to change what you consider your carrier tonnage and what you consider your capital ship tonnage. Because you're going to have to raise those tonnage limitations to reflect that now the cruiser level of anything below that is not counted. You can build as many on it as 18,000 tons. Because if you're going to go, well, capital ships were going to limit to 35,000 tons, but by the way, you can build as many ships as you want, which are 18,000 tons. You can all see the problem that's going to come about then.
Yes.
We can all see.
Sort of assume that they would be counted as capital ships purely because all the old armored cruisers especially the ones that the old Japanese armored cruisers that were classed as battle cruisers, those were axed under the naval treaties. Actually, hang on.
No, they weren't.
Characteristics of the Tiger Cubs, because I'm not familiar with this design. What gun caliber are they?
Okay,
What kind of?
Phoenix. Phoenix. Okay, so if you want that, I'll explain that. They're 9.2-inch gunships.
Okay.
They're definitely cruisers. They are
Gotcha.
15 to 18,000 tons. They are capable of roughly 28 knots. They are built in a sort of shrunken tiger form. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes.
They are cruisers. They are not capital ships.
Gotcha.
And the Royal Navy,
okay.
under no circumstances, would let them be classified as capital ships. So that's not happening.
So my other thought then would be that they perhaps get grandfathered in as allowed ships for the Royal Navy, but the cruiser limit still stays the same. Because I'm just thinking from the British perspective, right? You don't want to encourage
Phoenix?
lots of...
What's the cruiser class? Cruiser limitations based off?
Well, you have the Hawkins development that was almost 10,000 tons. You also have the Japanese and the Americans looking at 10,000 ton 8-inch cruisers before.
Yeah, and it's based off the Hawkins because they're the ones in construction, actually under construction. That's what they go with the last construction ship as the most operatic. Under this scenario, though, the Hawkins weren't constructed as the Hawkins were historically. They had more Tiger Cubs constructed.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, as said, my theory has always been, as I talked about, that they end up with a separate category under the Washington Naval Treaty, whereby you had everyone was allowed a certain number of ships within the 10 to 18,000 ton range in terms of you're allowed this much tonnage in this level, and rather like sort of they're considered heavy cruisers, and they just have a heavy cruiser and light cruisers and below,
like an intermediate category. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think my first thought is I think the French and the Japanese will inevitably turn that into a slap fight in the treaty negotiations, but you could still work something out because they did historically, after all, not with an intermediate category, but they still managed to find a way for the treaty to work.
I think the thing is you would end up with a capital ship category, probably instead of being 35,000 tons, probably would end up about 40,000 tons.
Spain is going
so
to
there's
be...
clear blue water between them.
Spain is going to be very, very happy because it means that the Canarias class will actually be reasonable replacements for the Hispanias. Because whatever they'll get will be a Spanish version of the British, small capital
the other
ship.
thing interesting, the other thing you probably get longer term is you probably get, to my mind, when you get the whole recognition and light cruiser etc. category, you probably end up in the first London Naval Treaty. Is you probably end up with a light carrier category and a fleet carrier category, because if you've had the heavy cruiser category, they're going to want ships in that range, and that's probably going to cause fun things.
I kind of wonder if you'd even get the Type A, Type B cruiser split at the 10,000 ton cruiser level and below, because in my mind, right, I mean, part of the reason that happened was because of the sheer amount of 10,000 ton 8-inch cruisers everyone was trying to build, because those are the maximum ships you could build under the treaty, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now, if you have this intermediate category of 15 to 18,000 ton ships that you can build, and a lot of nations are going to have that as tonnage they can use because they don't have ships in that category, that's going to be where it's sort of the real post World War I arms
that's
race
going to
happens.
be it is, and you can guarantee the Americans and the Japanese will be going for 10-inch guns. The British will go for 9.2-inch guns. Goodness knows what gun the French will go for, something in metric. The Italians will have an absolute field day. It'll be amazing. It'll be beautiful. It'll be glorious.
What would be the limit of
but I would imagine
ships'
just budgetary-wise,
gun
you would just get less 10,000 ton ships.
10 inches, because if you consider what they did historically was they took 7.5-inch guns of the Hawkins and they upgraded them to a full they upgraded them what the full level will be, so they decided 8-inch, and that's where the 8-inch comes from. In terms of the allowed gun, it's kind of like where does the 16-inch gun come from for the capital ships, because that's a large ship in construction.
The French were looking at 12-inch armed 17,500 ton cruisers, quote unquote, at this point period.
Well,
but if they're not allowed 12-inch,
would
then they'd probably be a bit better. Okay, so what do we rearm those with?
Well, also, I bear in mind those cruisers might not exist as a concept at all, because those were specifically designed to be 10,000 ton treaty cruiser killers. And I'm not even sure that you would really get a ton of 10,000 ton ships in this scenario, because the money to go towards those ships, which were not cheap in the grand scheme of things for a lot of the navies, is now going to be going towards these 15 to 18,000 ton ships for a lot of these navies. So
the only navy which is going to max out its cruiser build, no matter what you do in this time period, is going to be Britain, because they're the only navy which historically did max out their cruiser build.
Except they will not build.
And
They'll
the-
probably build they'll probably build lots of 8,000-ton, 8 to 10 inch.
Oh yeah,
like
they'll
8 to 10 6-inch gun armed cruisers.
they'll build 8,000 ton 6-inch gun cruisers by the oodle load, and they'll be churning out, the 9.2-inch gun Tiger Cubs basically as happy as they can be. You'll probably end up with something with about 9.2-inch guns in the Royal Navy. They'll probably the reason they'll stick with the 9.2-inch rather than going up to 10 inches because literally the 10 inch is going to sound great from the status perspective, but the Royal Navy is going to look at it and go, so rate of fire, the 9.2 inches are far faster than has the same rate of fire as an 8-inch, whereas a 10-inch is the same rate of fire as a 12-inch. For a cruiser, 9.2-inch fits us better, whereas the Americans and Japanese are going to go, but it's got 10 inches of a 10-inch gun, we're going to want that.
So you get one of the Churchill cruisers essentially.
Yeah.
Dr. Clark, given that the British are building 9.2-inch Tiger Cubs with 8 guns, when because obviously we know the Spanish had the Canarias class, which were built in Spain but with British parts, because the CEN was a Vickers subsidiary. Do we now if the heavy cruisers are already Tiger Cub size with 9.2s, might the Spanish not go, could we get a version of the design that sacrifices speed and or range for 8 12-inch guns on the center line to be a flat Hispania replacement?
They could go for it, yeah.
Just because I'm not saying, you're probably thinking 26 to 27 knots. Armored to resist at least 12-inch gunfire. So basically,
you could do it.
Because at that point, you're so close to that capability anyway with the size of the ship. And the Spanish, if they've got that smaller gap, they may as well go, well, if we're doing this, why don't we go for overmatch capability against the world's large cruisers?
Yeah. Right. I need to disappear for a minute, Fleet. Well, for about 30 minutes.
Just very quickly,
So, Fleet, I'm giving you the... Before, I just need to go from my Fleet, so I'm going to give you an order/instruction to make sure that this is safe, easier for you later. Any questions you answer, mark them off on the document so we don't redo them later.
Oh, right, okay.
Dragon, we know better than the trust boop with that. Foxo, do you have access to the document?
She should, technically speaking, she should do, but...
I know what
Foxo, would you do us all Foxo, would you do us all a favour and please do it to make sure the boot doesn't get lost?
I know where I am, mostly, 99% of the time.
Well, no, it's more... I know it's not a case of knowing where you are, it's just so that the questions are marked off of...
But do you know when you are?
Yeah. Okay, so it's
because
also...
I don't want us necessarily to not to lose questions and then re-go over them multiple times.
Yeah, it's also a nice way to actually keep track of... also regain sort of my track of where I am in 68, so...
Now see, I'm good
so-
at... Now see, actually, yes, Mo, you now have access to that document, I think.
So...
I'm looking at it.
It's in the chat
Now I
with
know.
Fleet.
No, I'm looking at it right
Oh,
now.
good.
I'm
Now
just-
I know
I don't like that.
So I said,
mostly...
I'll be back.
So the next question I need to look for is... So that was the...
Okay.
That was the Amatos, that was the Nell rods. Let me just have a look and see if those are... So that's the Tiger Cubs question. Was that a Discord or a YouTube question? Just so I know where I am.
That was a Discord question.
Okay.
Next YouTube question.
I'm
is-
just trying to find where I am so I know where I am. So King, shotgun, Pearl Harbor. There we go. So that's the Tiger Cub question. So that's where I am. So I know where I am on YouTube. Right. 1931 on YouTube. So, without the treaty, if Mikasa somehow gets saved, what other ways can happen so she gets a named successor? She will likely not get a named successor. If she's retained as a symbolic museum ship, she will not get a named successor. She is Mikasa, and will be retained as such. It's just that same way we don't have a victory. because victory is victory. That name belongs to her and her alone forevermore.
Yep. It's
Admiral,
true, it does.
Admiral Wellesley, what name would an Imperial German Antarctic colony be called? That's hard.
Das ist Coldland.
I mean, the Germans called their little enclave New Swabia. As in the Nazi Germans called the bit of the Antarctic they staked out New Swabia. So what the Imperial Germans would call theirs, I don't know if the naming terminology would change. I don't know if New Swabia was chosen because it was German, because it was Aryan, because with the Nazis you can never tell. They pick some names because they're very German. They pick some names because they have Aryan connotations. They pick some names because they're mystic. You can never tell which of the three is running through their insane, drugged-up heads at one day to the next. So I don't know if the Imperial Germans would also
You're
call
obsessed with German. You're obsessed with German drug taking.
It happened on a shockingly regular basis.
No, just
What would
noticed it.
What would so again? So like I said, the Nazis called their colony New Swabia. The Imperial Germans would probably call it Wilhelmland or something. Probably name it after the Kaiser as a new, Wilhelmland or Wilhelm's land.
Something of that sort.
Yeah. Or possibly Victoria's Place, or named after the Crown Princess.
They did like that.
Just name it Pingvinland.
It could be. It depends. It's one of those weird things that's a little bit. So let me make a note of that. So answered.
Next.
So answered that. There we go. So this YouTube question. Let me just check. Actually, I must need to find that on the. I can't make heads or tails of this. Oh, I don't know where. I'm having to find the Mikasa question.
I've returned.
There we go. So that's answered. Because it's not in order. Because it's in order of when they were asked, not in when they were answered. So it's.
MacArthur, is that a new nickname for Douglas MacArthur?
Yeah, it's
so
not on the list.
Knight 68. It is on the list. I found it. 1981. If the Soviets had an Italian Conte di Cavour and a British revenge in the interwar years, how much does a Soviet revenge and a Conte di Cavour force the Germans to alter their plans? It doesn't. It doesn't in any significant way. Because they'll be looking at the Baltic and going, oh, the Russians have another pair of battleships in the Baltic. Okay. The Germans have no.
That's assuming the Russians.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry.
Go on, Phoenix.
I was gonna say that even assumes that the Russians put them in the Baltic in the first place.
Yeah.
Because they were also quite concerned about the Black Sea, because when the Turks actually did finally modernize, or fix her at least, that was a concern again. So they brought some of their battleships down to the Black Sea fleet.
The problem.
So that might also affect their calculus when it comes to getting two brand new battleships. But
the problem you've got with a Cavour and a Revenge being in Soviet Russia is that there will be no spares.
Yep.
The Gangets were kept going and rebuilt because they were Russian battleships for which Russian parts could be procured and Russian machinery was fitted in. I'm sorry to say this, but it is highly likely that when the modernization window that the Russians historically use for the Gangets comes up, it's the Gangets that will still get it, not the Cavour and the Revenge. In fact, I consider it highly likely that the Cavours and the Revengers will actually be the things that lose their turrets to go into coastal batteries, whereas it was some of the more
The Cavour?
Yes. Again,
I mean,
no spares. There's no spares for the engines or the guns.
Yeah, but they can get spares off the Italians. They're already buying ships off the Italians. The Italians are the ones that would be like, yeah, you need spares for her? We can give you the spares for her.
Depends when that pipeline opens up, though. She's got to survive for that pipeline.
And it's also a case of, even if they're not in the best condition, a Revenge or a Cavour in the Black Sea really changes a
Well,
lot
there's
of
a
the
difference-
convoys that go on,
There's a
especially
difference.
around Sevastopol.
It's gonna
No, they
rustle the
don't.
turf.
No, they don't. They don't change a damn thing.
They do.
Yeah.
No,
Because
no,
the
they don't.
Russian cruisers were able to interdict a lot of
Yes.
some of their.
Yes, they were.
I mean, the main
and
thing
then-
is
because
and
any capital
the-
ships in the Black Sea are still going to be under the same kind of air threat that the Axis put them under, historically speaking.
yeah,
And
this
you
is the
can't
thing.
really change that. I mean, it might same with the Baltic. Like you might change the balance of power on paper for the capital ships in the region, but like, hey, the Turks never fought there anyway, so in World War II, so they're kind of irrelevant in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, this is
It's
the
only
thing.
really Soviet interwar decision making that's going to alter.
Like,
So
whether
and
it's-
chances are the battleships just get blown up. in-
or
by the-
they
yeah.
do what happened historically, which is the Black Sea gang got retired eastward to get out of the
Yeah.
range of Luftwaffe air threat.
Yeah.
Because even with its rebuilt and extra anti-aircraft guns, it was still far too vulnerable.
hmm
Again, it doesn't really matter what capital ships the Red Fleet has. If they're in the Baltic or the Black Sea, they are incredibly vulnerable to air attack and contribute very little aside from gunfire support to Leningrad if they're in the Baltic, or occasional sorties if they're in the Black Sea as the war turns in Russia's favour. This is the problem that I have.
yeah, but
Um,
especially if you're in the Black Sea, especially early on in the war, you've got the argument of
What?
Well, I mean, what do the battleships give you that your existing
My lines
battleships
are
in the
being
Black Sea
done through
didn't give you
coastal trade.
otherwise? Because I mean, the Soviets already had a sort of de facto superiority in the Black Sea as far as naval forces went, because their only real opposition was the Romanian Navy.
And the only
I mean,
real
unless you want to
opposition-
count, like, the Italians got some midget submarines up there and some Moss boats, but like,
Yeah.
otherwise, and then I think the Germans put some MTBs up there as well. But otherwise, frankly, the main barrier for the Russian operations in the Black Sea was a mix of their own inexperience and the Axis air threat, really. I mean, because they did try and attack the Romanian coast early in the war. That did not go very well for them.
No.
But for their own needs, I mean, with their own warfighting needs in terms of like convoy protection and such, and some coastal bombardment in Soviet areas, what they had was already good enough. And frankly, like in a lot of cases, you'd rather use destroyers and cruisers that can get in, sortie out, and then get the hell out of there overnight, because they're more suited to that than a battleship, because the battleships are going to be too slow.
Yeah. If you're sub 30 knots in the Black Sea as a service asset, you are incredibly vulnerable in the Second World War. If you're on the Soviet side. It's just the pervasive level of air threat. If you're trying to do anything near the coast or near the shipping routes, you will get jumped and you will likely be damaged or sunk. Especially if you are a battleship that the Germans will go, ooh, valuable target. Just like they did when Marat sorted in the Baltic. They sent a good deal more aircraft at her with a decent bomb load of dedicated anti-shipping ordnance, like big 2,000 kilogram armor-piercing bombs, to ensure that they sank her. This is the thing. And this is why I say that if it comes to... Especially if you've... Honestly, the Russians might choose to actually scrap the Revenge and use her turrets and shore installations and use the money and material freed up from that to try and get the 4th Gangut back operational, rather than scrapping her to use in shore installations. Because then that would give them 5 battleships with 12-inch guns. Because they can just about get spares for the Cavour. They can't get spares for the Revenge.
Why not?
Because
Why not?
the British aren't going to sell to the Soviet Union, considering they've...
Well, actually, I mean, to be fair,
not?
we don't know if we
They
can make the
probably will,
assumption here,
actually.
because how the hell do the Soviets have these ships in the first place? Is the first question to ask. How do they get two Entente battleships after the First World War?
I think it's basically the ships the Soviets got and used during the Second World War, either during and after it, basically, to stand in for Arkhangelsk and Novosibirsk.
Yeah, but so the Soviets have gotten these ships in the interwar period somehow.
Yes.
So how the hell did that happen?
It's a follow-on from a question that was asked a couple of ramblings ago. In fact, it was during the big 50th anniversary ramblings, actually. Because remember, me, Drac, and Dr. Clark were talking about it and how the Finns might get them in the aftermath of the conflict and where they would end up. But this is basically a follow-on from that, and basically, what if the Russians have received them and have kept them? And again,
My
this
view
is,
was the Finns would be very, very happy with them.
yeah, this is the thing. Personally, with the Soviet Union, it's gonna come down to what is consistent, what is practical, and what can help revitalize their industry.
Alternatively, what gives Stalin the biggest stiffy? Because that's also a motivating factor here for a lot of Soviet interwar plans. Like honestly, I'm not entirely sure they would entirely can the R class simply because it is clearly the most powerful battleship they're going to have at that point in time.
It is,
And the
but
Soviets,
it is, but I still maintain that getting spares for a one-off from Britain is going to cost an arm and a leg. If they can get
it
them
will.
all.
Yeah,
I mean, if
it
they
will.
can't
If they can
even
get
get
them
the
at all.
spares, they might just try and
Yep.
substitute what they can.
Yep.
Which is what they did historically with a
Foxo.
lot of ships that
I
they
mean,
had.
the Soviets as a command
Um,
economy, they don't really do much trade with the outside world.
But they do though. That's the
Be
thing.
surprised. They got a lot
Like,
of specialist
on-
material working with various companies in Europe. They also made a lot of ground in Italy and Germany, particularly because both of these were revisionist powers who wanted to change the status quo. This is Germany, including the Weimar era too. This is not like just a Nazi era Germany thing. The Germans did a lot with the Soviets to trade in the interwar period and increase both the capabilities for war. Really, the
It's
Germans used them as a way of getting around Versailles in quite a few ways.
But you also got the mass investment by a lot of Americans because they were willing, Soviets were willing to play cash in hand for a lot of stuff. So
Yep.
they ended up importing a massive amount of tractors, engines, aircraft engines. How do you think the Soviets get their hands on all the gnome roams?
Hmm.
Like, until sort of Stalinism kicks off really hard, the Soviets are still importing stuff and they're exporting a lot of grain. Because the Soviets sort of learned the hard way, you need expertise to build an industrialized economy. You can't just build it from scratch in 5 years. Which is where stuff like the BT tanks and Water Christie come in. Because it was that normal for the Americans to be selling tractors to the Soviets that you could disguise a tank chassis as a tractor.
Mm. Yeah.
So
Well, it's an interesting
So-
hypothetical.
Mm.
Uh,
I still think discount the dictator
Yeah, I know.
and,
I know.
it's Stalin.
I suppose this is Fleet's penchant for
Never,
practicality.
never discount.
I suppose
No, it's your penchant for believing that believing the. Don't take this the wrong way.
sense will triumph over emotion.
It's your penchant for believing what you've been told in terms of history when people have just thrown history together. The fact is, nations have often had to be far more pragmatic than their rhetoric, but they are very good at publicizing rhetoric to such an extent that that is what you most often get told and most often hear, and then it's only once you start looking and go, hang on, but they were doing that and oh, and it's like Britain not trading with with Russia. Yes, they did. They did. A lot.
Hmm.
A lot.
Mm.
A lot.
Yes, I think you've.
Did I mention a lot?
Yes, you did. You did indeed mention a lot. So,
A significant amount.
could you guys hold the fort for a second? I need to go and deal with this fluffy research assistant. She's going mad.
Okay. All right. So next question, or do we want to ramble about something else?
Depends. How much do we want to annoy Fleet by rambling about something else?
You want to ramble about the Soviet economy?
Do that.
Yeah, we could do that.
We could do that.
I understand that the Soviets were sort of importing a lot and exporting a lot, despite common misconception. But do we know to actually what level they were doing it? I remember.
It's basically a constant. The Soviets are never at a situation when they can't not be importing. They never have. They're always looking for an autarkic economy, and they can never get it to an autarkic economy. They want it to be, but they can't get it there. They have a lot of dreams. They're not really practical, but they do have a lot of dreams when it comes to their economy.
I know the Soviet Union became very reliant on being called.
Is this 1930 temporary Anglo-Soviet commercial agreement?
Yeah, that was a temporary agreement which lasted for quite a long time. For something which was temporary.
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 Alright then. Well, it seems like this topic wasn't too successful in rambling. Next question. then.
It's not unsuccessful. Not unsuccessful at all.
Alright. Well, on my list, it's got any officers question on Discord, unless were we on the YouTube or
Okay.
Discord question? I don't remember. Anyway, let's see. Do you think the Jaguar is better than the F-105, A7, or the G91? And also, do you think the Buccaneer is a better carrier attack aircraft than the A6 and A7?
What do you want to do for the Jaguar? It's much of a muchness, I'd say, but Foxho's probably better than me on this one. For the Buccaneer versus the Intruder, you have to remember one's a very good bomb truck, one's a very good low-level attack aircraft. One is basically designed to operate in a scenario where it's got something like an F-14 backing it up and going, "So you want to play my friend?" And the other one's designed for a scenario where you're going to sneak in so low, so fast, that frankly no one sees you coming until you're over the target and dropping the bombs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a case of what do you want to do. If you want to do one thing, then if you want to do that low level strike without them being seen coming, you want the Buccaneer. If you are in a scenario where you're going to have backup, you want the bomb truck because you're going to guaranteed to blow everything the kingdom come with it.
Yeah. Do you want to comment on the Jag, Foxo, or? Well, I guess she might not be here. Well, anyway, from what I understand, the big problem comparing the Jag with the 105, A7, and G91 is that the only actual contemporary on that list with the Jag is the A7. And the A7 and Jag is two completely very different aircrafts that has a very different requirement. The 105 is second generation. It's 10 years older than a Jag, so it's not really a very good comparison. They did similar roles, but fundamentally speaking, the Jag is naturally just going to be better than a 105 simply because there's just such a technological gap between the two. And same thing with the G91. The G91's it's a small, lightweight. Basically, it's a really tiny saber.
Oh.
Which is, I know there's like a later variants have like reheat engines and stuff like that, but fundamentally speaking, that is an airframe difference. The G91 fundamentally cannot do what a Jag can do because it's not fast enough. It's not big enough. It's good if you want to just run in with a bunch of rocket pods and, spray it in the general location, but it's not going to do the level of precision strikes that a Jag or a 105 can do. So fundamentally, it's not a very good comparison in terms of the list he came up with. So yeah. Let's see. Since we did a Discord question, let me quickly that down. Right. What's the next YouTube question? Right. So Knights 6831 asks, how would the British avoid the same hydrodynamic problems that plagued the Bismarck when they reached the G3N3, as they were about the same size range as the Bismarck?
Probably not. Because isn't the whole big issue of the Bismarck that it was the break in ship construction that caused most of the issues?
Yeah.
But the Royal Navy have built a capital ship of that size range recently in the form of Hood. So, and if I remember correctly, they've learned a lot of the lessons from constructing Hood because she was too long for her slipway, if I remember correctly.
When I say too long, she was if it's one of those things is she was actually perched over the houses at the end of the slipway. What people seem to figure is they knocked down houses to extend the slipway, and if they needed to knock down any more, they just would have done it. They really had no qualms and no compunction about doing these sort of things. And again, one of the advantages you normally had in these areas is because the shipyards not only normally owned the land the shipyard was on, they often owned the land around it because it's where their workers had housing. So they would literally turn to their own workers who were living in those houses and go, "Ren, we bought some land. These are your new houses. Move out, please. You're moving to there, and we're going to knock them down." Didn't even require eminent domain or anything like that. It was just, we're shipyard. We're your employers. We own the house you're renting. We need to knock that house down to expand our yard. We have another house for you to move to. Go.
There's a famous photo of her looming over the street and almost in the houses next.
Yeah.
Because don't they end up...
And that's why, again, the shipyards are going to do the bare minimum. If they needed to, if they could save money on buying more land to build more houses to house their workers, they would do. They were going to do the very bare minimum. Which, again, why you can tell it was done by the shipyard, not by the council or the government, because the government would have expanded it more than that. Whereas the shipyard basically went, what's the bare minimum number of houses we can knock down?
Yeah, future-proofing, what's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for someone else's problem to deal with.
Alright, perfect.
So, very quickly, where was that? Where are we? I had to deal with the fluffy
now
research
at
assistant.
Question 2 of Gunnery Officer's question of Discord. You have the list open, right?
I do, but the list is not what we're going off of. We're going off of
Yeah, no, but I made sure the order's right.
Oh, I see.
I'm gonna throw in the YouTube question after that one.
Fair enough. So where were we? Let me just check. So that was we did the hydrodynamic. So we've done the hydrodynamic one.
Yes. Yes. did that.
So okay. So let me see. So hydrodynamics we did. So many pings for me.
Yeah.
You don't have to ping me, folks. I will get to things eventually. You don't have to ping me. Please do not ping me unless in rambling.
Quick thing,
Hey,
for
folks,
Leslie.
continue pinging fleet.
Do not.
Yeah, Leslie, do you
Ping
have the
fleet.
image of Hood looming over the town when she's on the slipway? 'Cause I can't seem to find it. But I know it's out
Ping
there.
fleet. Ping the boop. Or rather, instead of pinging,
Please do
boop
not.
the boop.
Do not.
Boop the boop.
Please.
Boop the boop.
Stop it.
Boop the boop.
I swear to God,
Boop
Dr.
the
Clark.
Boop him. Boop
Stop
him.
it.
Boop him. Boop
Stop
him.
it. Stop it.
Boop the boop.
Stop it.
Boop the boop.
That's
Under Article 5 of the Bow Bro Code, you are now allowed to boop the flute.
no. No.
I'm sorry, I didn't write the bro code.
You don't get to reference the bro code.
Yes, I
She's
do.
Foxo. She gets to reference whatever she chooses to.
Okay, so... Right. Okay. Right, I'm back to where I was. So that was the QE power plant one. Don't know why.
That I am Zuki. Wait, why do I call you Zuki? You... Zooey.
So that one's already been answered. Wow, there's a big gap here. So Tiger Cubs, that's already been answered. Typical officer, do you think the Jaguar is better than the F-105, A7, or G91?
Did that.
Answer that one.
Did that, okay.
Look on the list.
Typical
Look
officer.
on the list.
Okay, typical officer. Thoughts on the glass-reinforced plastic-hulled minesweeper HMS Wilton? Why did the RN build more of her? Since the USM built the wooden-hulled aggressive class minesweepers to counter the threat of magnetic mines. This is a new ship to me. Stop. Fuck's sake. Do not ping fleet if it is about a question. I will get to questions eventually.
Ping him if you want to boot him.
I've realised that
Yes,
I
that
have
one.
to say on our thing is I have just realised that having 24 16.5-inch guns on a battleship really does lead to some fun times.
Very much so.
Leslie, thank you. You're a legend.
What did they do?
Look at chat.
Ah, thank God, Dragon's
That's fine.
back.
I'm slightly trying to catch back up on
yeah,
questions
that
to make sure
picture.
they're in the document.
The one where Hood is hanging over the street.
Actually, Gunnery Officer, just noticed because that Gunnery Officer, no, there's a better option than that. So there was a question by someone. Wheatley basically mentioned if the Royal Navy kept the twin turret doctrine around on their modern, would it be possible to have a twin gun version of modern ones? Gunnery Officer then posted the Mark 64 twin American 5-inch.
That's very
But-
far down the list. Okay.
Yes, it is, but
Yeah,
it's just
go
because
ahead.
this is what. But actually, the Royal Navy, as I've discussed with Clark recently, had a 5-inch 70 caliber twin turret they wanted to use instead, and that thing had a ludicrous fire rate, so much that they had to block it firing after a certain period of time because it would melt the barrels.
Good times.
Which a friend of mine is now going to be using in a nation roleplay, and
I feel like
they
we've
don't know how to
gotten.
handle it.
I feel like we've gotten artificial limits on the rate of fire, Dragon.
Hmm?
Artificial limit on the rate of
What?
fire.
That's what was said. 'Cause if you let it have its absolute rate of fire, it would melt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
know.
it's like it's fast. Technically, it's fastest fire. It was like a 5-inch round, at like 0.9 of a second.
I did. I Brandon Larson, I did. I did pick 5 ships from each of the nations. I did. I did that.
Yep, that was one of Fleet's earliest things that he did.
I did
Mhm.
that. I did that.
But his answer to all the Royal Navy ships wasn't Hood. And
Yeah.
Well, no,
Hood,
it was. No,
and
it's
Hood,
I
and
legally
Renown,
have to say
and
this.
Hood.
No, he didn't mention Renown. It was Warspite,
Exactly.
Hood, Nelson, and Ark Royal.
Which is how you know he's wrong.
That you can't be wrong. It's an opinion. Opinions can't be wrong.
That
Hood is
False.
objectively the best Royal Navy ship. Most
Ooh.
sexy.
On what grounds do you believe opinions can't be wrong?
Given that fundamentally the opinion as a concept. Look,
Oh boy, here we go.
an opinion as a concept.
or we can move on.
Yeah.
For Fleet's sake.
It's my opinion that Hosh, this is hypothetically, that Hosh is a good ship. My opinion, hypothetically, is equivocally and provably wrong.
Therefore, an opinion can be wrong.
Yes.
I had the opinion that gravity is not actually a thing.
Oh,
That
yeah,
would be
that's-
objectively wrong.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like the
So,
flat Earth.
I had the opinion that the Earth was flat. Is that
Yeah.
controversial to say?
No,
If
no.
okay,
No,
if the Earth
no,
was flat, it would
it's
be
not,
wrong.
It's not controversial. Point at the flat Earth community.
Okay.
Make fun of the flat Earth community. Constantly
Okay,
belittle
just double
members of the
checking
flat
here.
Earth community.
But
The more we belittle them, the less relevant they become, and the more they leave their community in shame.
Yeah, God, that actually
It's like-
reminds me. When I was in undergrad, I had a friend in another school who his school had a flat Earth club.
Oh,
So he
no.
made a habit of inflating those like beach balls that had the Earth print globe on it.
Oh,
He had a habit of inflating those, like kicking those
I'm
into their
assuming
room
Moe, that one
every
was
once in a while.
answered?
No,
Uh,
was not answered.
Right. Okay, it's just because you had the dot already there.
right. Okay. So,
Yeah, but that would have been answered whenever he.
so very quickly,
Right.
I
okay.
would like.
I only
I would like to
return
return to the question regarding the plasticine. Not my plasticine, sorry. The glass reinforced
Yes.
minesweeper HMS Wilton, which we
Here.
got wildly off topic of because it is technically the last question we're answering
Oh,
today.
okay. Give me a second.
So, oh, she has Napier
A
Delta.
plasticine ship wouldn't work.
Yeah, I know. That's what I said. Yeah, I know.
Plasticine.
I
Actually,
corrected
would a
myself.
plasticine
I
ship work?
corrected myself.
Clark, no, I'm curious now. Would it actually work if you had enough plasticine? Remember,
Can
it's
we,
positively
Foxo,
buoyant.
can we not get? We've already got on topic regarding HMS Wilton once. Can we stick on topic, please?
Nope.
Possibly
So the
it
actual-
would work, but it's going to be
So
interesting.
So the actual question was basically thoughts on the glass reinforced plastic model HMS Wilton. Why did the RN build more of her? I assume that should be why didn't the RN build more of her? Gunnery officer, you really need to work on the grammar in your questions because they can be a little bit unclear
Fleet.
at times.
People in glass houses should not throw stones.
Well, no.
Why do you-
This isn't
why
throwing
think you-
stones. This is
Why
I
do you think
really
they
want
copy
to answer
questions
your.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is the thing. I really want to answer them, but I have to sometimes wonder if.
Yes, they have said, yeah, why didn't they?
Yes, so just please, because I really want to answer questions properly and not give people the wrong answers.
Now, he's actually deceiving you. He does want to give you the wrong answers.
Mm.
It's all part of his evil scheme.
Anyway, so why didn't the Royal Navy build more of her? Since the United States built the
I think
wooden-hulled
saying he has a
aggressive
scheme is
class
giving him far too much
minesweeper,
credit.
to counter the threat of magnetic mines. Well, basically because it was a test, I suppose.
Did it work?
Well, I suppose apparently it did give the vessel a low magnetic signature against the threat of magnetic mines.
Right, but did it actually work?
I don't know. The
It's
Wikipedia article.
efficiency.
But apparently the fact that it's still around means it didn't explode, at least. But
Well, it was decommissioned in 1994. It had a full 20-ish year service life.
From what I'm reading, it looks like it was an interesting idea, but degaussing techniques got better and could match it, so
Yeah,
you
no.
never built one.
Hey, she had 2 Napier
Because-
Deltics, which is cool.
There we go.
It was a case of she was also quite expensive for what she was.
Yeah. She's a naval locomotive. She has 2 Deltics
Yeah, I wonder why.
engines, 2 Deltic engines, same as the Deltics had. Good times. Good
Alright.
times.
Yeah, it
more than likely, Ocean is probably cheaper. Yeah.
Wilton was unofficially known as HMS Tupperware, HMS Indestructible, and the Plastic Duck or Plastic Pig. Aw. Those latter 2 I don't like, but I like HMS Tupperware and HMS Indestructible. Those are quite good
HMS
nicknames.
Plastic Duck is brilliant.
That's
Honestly, I
really,
would
that's
call her MHS
Kush.
or HMS Toy Boat.
They clearly don't have the HMS Rubber Ducky.
Aha.
Yeah,
No, because she
rubber.
like
No, it doesn't
in
look
that
like a ducky, though.
picture typical gunnery officer posted, she does look like a toy boat.
So, very
It
quickly,
absolutely looks like the one.
am I being pinged across many different servers? Yes,
Yes.
I am. Dolphin, would you stop, please? Stop it!
Do not.
Stop it!
And also, from what I can find, about Monopoly, no, that the Monopoly battleship isn't
It's
based off
Indiana.
Hosh.
It's Indiana. It's the battleship Indiana. I looked it up.
Well, it's actually, apparently originally comes from the game Conflict, but when that game
Yeah.
failed, they then moved it over. From what I just found.
Right. But yes.
Next.
But yes. Well, no, not next because
Well,
we
Fleet-
have
Fleet's
reached
gonna
our
try and end it there.
we have reached our 3-hour time limit. There is a lot to do. I'm looking forward to actually
We're left
cranking through these on Friday. We have a good number to get through both from last week and this week, but it shouldn't take too long. And-
whole lot of gunner officer.
Yeah, but
Yes,
then
thank you, Gunner.
but we are-
Annoying, 'cause
we
I was
are-
trying to go for work for half of this.
yeah,
Genuinely
we are-
curiosity, gunner officer. Do you just have these on a spread on a like Google Docs or something?
I am on. I would be very surprised if
Okay.
he would not. If he does not.
I'm not
have
annoyed
them
at
on
it.
a-
It's more just a case of these are just a lot of questions. So
Wow, we've passed double
your
digits.
questions don't get vanished, Zui. That as long as I can see them, which is normally
Which
highly
question
likely.
is it? The chat was occasionally going pretty wild, and he was away for like half a second.
Yes, I don't get.
Yeah, do we just, if needs be, just ping them to ping us, ping me, and I'll put them in.
Yeah, don't ping Fleet, ping one of us.
Yeah, because I'm
Well,
trying.
no,
I'm
yes,
trying to
fine.
watch. I'm trying to watch two different things on. I've only got one screen.
Yeah.
I'm trying to watch two different chats at the same time on one screen. I'm just about managing it, and I'm bad
Yeah,
at.
but which questions are you referring to here, Zui?
Either
Yeah.
way, thank.
Yeah, Fleet,
as-
have you looked up Nagato bulges yet on the internet?
Okay,
This
I've
isn't.
been
This,
asking you to
So
look it up.
wait,
this
there's also the
isn't
thing-
my. This isn't my first rodeo. I know what the problems are. No. But very quickly, thank you very much, everyone, for coming. What I will say is, as has been the case for the last few weeks. So let me just very quickly shut the stream down. Thank you, everyone on YouTube, for coming. I hope you've had a fantastic time. Take care, and I will see you. I'll see most of you tomorrow for Rule the Waves.
Ah,
And I will see the rest of you on Friday for the catch-up ramblings.